Good evening, fellow Devils fans. Another day to wake up depressed. A gray, cold Sunday in New Jersey, and another day that our beloved New Jersey Devils are in loads and loads of trouble. Welcome back, Devils fans. It is your host, Ace, here on Running with the Devils, where we are talking New Jersey Devils hockey all year long. Please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, share with a friend. Thank you very much. And folks, there's nothing good to talk about right now. Nothing good indeed. Our beloved New Jersey Devils currently riding a 5 game losing streak. I did not see this coming. Just right before Chicago cut, everything was on the up and up. This team looked like a true blue Stanley Cup contender. Lots of us had hopes that this group was finally going to turn the corner. This was finally our season. Everything was going to come into place. Sunshines and rainbows. We were going to go on this magical run. And since Chicago cut, it has been absolutely painful. Absolutely painful. 3-game losing streak concluding in Philly. On the road, I thought that could have been rock bottom. I was pretty damn nervous, and I started to say, listen, this might be the beginning of the end. Maybe the hard questions need to be asked. I wasn't quite there yet, but I was getting close because that was pretty worrisome. And then the boys responded. They rattled off 3 in a row, and I was like, okay, maybe this just was one of those little blips along the road. 3 games, not the end of the world if they do get this turned around. And then they followed it up with a 4-game losing streak on home ice, getting shut out in the last 2. And then they go into Boston last night and another terrible performance and score 1 goal. And so now we are on a 5-game losing streak. We've scored a single goal over the last 3, and the internets have gone ablaze. Completely ablaze. And it seems like at this point, even the most stringent and loyal Tom Fitzgerald supporters, followers, whatever you want to call it, have abandoned him because they have seen enough. 23-24 was the first season we saw the transgressions, not getting the goalie. A lot of people overlooked it and said, I don't know how they did, but a lot of people glossed over that. Then finally last season, injuries again. Everyone hoping to make a deep run. Maybe we'll get some players at the deadline, underwhelming deadline. And somehow some of these people still glossed it over. I do think he lost a lot of support at that point, and more people started to see the light. But still some supporting. And they're like, injuries, and people writing it off. And then finally now this year with this losing streak, the small percentage of people that were still left supporting him, I think, have now fully abandoned and said, you know what, we gave you the benefit of the doubt the last 2 seasons. We're seeing the exact same thing again. Another precious year of a core that should have won minimum a Stanley Cup. But, it's 5-6 years ago, people were saying this team could be built to win potentially 2 or 3 cups over the next 10 to 12 years with Jack and Nico and the draft fortunes that have come our way. Loads of cap space, lots of opportunity to build a real contender, and nothing has been done since that 22-23 season of note. Nothing. And it's super unfortunate. But the thing we're going to get into here, the Ranger game just went final a little while ago. And here we look at the standings. And for those of you, and again, I'm not trying to be an alarmist. I do believe I am the most optimistic and patient person, probably not the most, but one of the most. And I try to be fair. And some people will say I'm not. I disagree. But the reality is, why I'm calling this 911 time is because very, very quickly with the standings, and again, tons of hockey to be played, but when you look at the standings as of today, the New Jersey Devils, a team that was first place in the league a few weeks ago, and even for a little bit after that, we're still first in the East. First in the East, they are now in 5th place for the wild card. For the wild card. Again, the Metro Islanders in 3rd right now at 35 points, played 1 more game than the Devils. And so technically if the Devils won their game in hand, they would get into that 3rd place spot. But look at the wild card standings here. You have Pittsburgh with 27 games played, 34 points. They have 2 games in hand on us and a point more. So even if they only won 1 of the 2 games in hand, that's 3 points. Rangers have played 2 games more than us and only have 1 more point. So they're catchable. But then you see Philly has 2 games in hand, and we have the same amount of points. Detroit, we have the same amount of points and games played. And then Columbus, same amount of games played as the Devils, only 1 less point. And you just look at the list. It's completely tight. And realistically, I think only the Sabres are not going to have a chance, if I'm being real. And who knows, a little winning streak for them could do wonders as well. But when you look at this, almost the entire East is still in the thick of it. And what has this New Jersey Devils team done or shown us lately to make you believe that they are capable of erasing a deficit if it gets worse? I've seen nothing. Now, again, still super early. It seems like it's going to be tight all year long, but to see the team slide to this spot, considering where they were not that long ago, it should be alarming to everyone. And if it continues with no moves being made, my biggest fear is that they quickly find themselves in a hole that upper management can justify punting another season. They say, man, we're not going to use assets this year because we're not going to do anything. We're not really in the position to make a true push. So why waste assets? Let's just sit back and see what happens. And that will result in another year of missing the playoffs, which would be completely inexcusable. I honestly, coming into this season, in my worst nightmares, would have never fathomed that A, we would ever miss the playoffs, and B, that we would ever even be having the conversation about missing the playoffs as if it was something that could happen. Never in my worst nightmares would have ever dreamt of it, and especially in December. We're talking about falling out of a playoff spot in the month of December. Let me pull something else up. It's honestly discouraging, and I do still think, and maybe it is blind optimism and being a fan and whatever else. And maybe this is with my, red colored future is bright glasses, but I'd still like to believe that this group will show a spine at some point and make a run. Let me just see what we got here. Let me just pull up this graphic. But I'm beyond concerned. I think a move needs to be made immediately. We'll get into all the rumors and stuff because obviously the rumor mill has been running wild surrounding the Devils in the past few days. And, who knows if any of this will turn into anything. I certainly hope it does. I hope we don't just come in second again. But there it is. You look at the standings, super tight. My fear, they fall out, and it's an easy justification. We look at the playoff percent chance to make the playoffs. Now, the Devils were, I think, about 80%, maybe like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And we see now odds to make the playoffs. The Devils have plummeted to 39.3%. 39.3%, less than a coin flip. We're not even 50-50 anymore. We're 39.3% to make the playoffs. That is seriously discouraging. And again, I'm not going to put too much stock into this, but for a team that was, nearly double the chance, around 80%, not too long ago, this horrible streak has put us in a real disadvantage. 39.3% to make the playoffs, 17.1% to make the second round, and then to make the Eastern Conference Finals, we're at 7.8%. What a just tragic trajectory this team has been on. And I don't have all the answers or any of the answers really, other than I maintain that I know the answer is to not do anything. That's not the answer because we've seen that movie before. We see how it ends. Sitting idly and doing nothing will result in this team either missing the playoffs or barely getting in and then getting thoroughly beaten down. But there it is, 39.3%. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And something's got to change. Now, I do not think that we will see Fitz removed of his duties, unfortunately. I don't think we will. Do I think he's the guy to fix this train wreck that he's built? No, I don't. I think if ownership was responsible and truly cared about winning, they would show him the door and then bring in someone that could try to fix this mess. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. And so the only thing I could hope for is that he makes a move or moves that truly impact this team and in a hurry. And by in a hurry, I mean like stat, the next week or two, because the schedule is not easy. The 11 games left in December, I could see a world where they only win 3 or 4 of them. And then where does that put you heading into the calendar year 2026 in terms of the standings? You could be nearly double digits out of a playoff spot. You could be hovering at that 7-8 points out maybe. It's a frightening thing to think about because by the time Jack comes back, we could really be in a hole. And require a winning streak or playing fairly consistent, like 650, 680-ish points percentage hockey to gain some ground. And who would have thought that, right? That after the start we had, we will then be behind the 8 ball and looking to make up a deficit to even claw into the playoffs. It's discouraging. It's discouraging, but that is the reality of where this team is right now. I have seen absolutely nothing in these 5 games to give me any sort of hope. Yeah, have they played okay a couple minutes here and there? Sure. Even a period. Is that something I'm going to celebrate? Absolutely not, because in the end, you're losing games. Points are being wiped off the board. You're getting nothing. To get 0 points on a 4-game homestand is criminal. Absolutely criminal. And shame on the team for allowing it to happen. Just lifeless, no real response. And I really hope that Columbus game didn't break us, because that would have been a phenomenal kind of rally the troops kind of win. I've always said those spirited, physically engaged warfare type games, when they can win them, that does something to a team, their psyche and just kind of the whole vibe. And on the flip side, when you lose them, I think it could have the same effect negatively. Like, damn, that's kind of a real damper kind of on everybody's situation. And to blow a 2-goal lead in that one, to get our asses kicked in the fights, Dilly went down. I mean, it was just an absolute train wreck. And I'm hoping we don't look back at the end of the season, look back and be like, Chicago cut was one of the biggest blows. And then that Columbus game as kind of being another one of these incidents that really set the team back. But it certainly seemed like, that was one of those games that we had to win on home ice. But let's just take a look. We look at the score on the season right now. The captain leading the way with 10 goals, 16 assists for 26 points. Bratter with 5 goals. Very disappointed in Bratter. I mean, listen, he is a very good player and racking up those assists. But if we're being honest, over a third of the season played with only 5 goals for Jesper Bratt is absolutely not acceptable. But 5 goals, 21 assists for 26 points. Timo the Bull Meyer has 11 and 12 for 23. Great season for Timo. I think he's easily been our best forward over the past couple weeks. Dawson Mercer, another guy who's been kind of affected, in my opinion, with the Jack Hughes injury a lot, because he was thriving on the wing. Jack gets Chicago cut. Mercer out of necessity, because, again, we have no center depth, and I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but when you trace back all these problems, these are all Tom Fitzgerald induced problems. The fact that we have no center depth is an indictment on him. And so now a guy like Jack Hughes goes down, not even in a game, at a rookie dinner. Jack goes down, and now we need to, not necessarily a sacrificial lamb, but Mercer has to bite the bullet, come off the wing, which he is better at and feels more comfortable at, and get forced to center because we have no other centers. Whose fault is that? And again, I'm not trying to keep beating the guy down, but when you look at all of these problems and people keep glossing over them and excusing them, it's like, who created all these problems? People have been pounding the table for more center depth, specifically a 3C, for months and months, going back to the summer. And when you ignore these things, 3C, a top 6 winger, et cetera, but the 3C being the most glaring one, when you ignore these, you could get away with it for some time. And like I said last night, for those that were here last night, when you have Jack Hughes in the lineup, a lot of these inefficiencies and shortcomings and deficiencies, holes in your lineup will kind of get covered up and masked by the fact that we're winning games because Jack Hughes is a phenomenal hockey player. And so to some extent, the lack of center depth while Jack was playing, while we were winning, it was like, yeah, maybe it's not the most ideal center group, but we're winning and the team looks fairly good, blah, blah, blah. But then Jack goes down and quickly it all goes to hell. And right away, you have to say the center depth, lack of center depth. Mercer's play is taking a hit. He was a point per game guy, earlier on in the season, small sample space, but it looked like he was going to be on pace for around 60 points for a lot of that at a minimum. And now he's at 21 points in 29 games. Still a very good start for young Dawson Mercer, but his individual play is taking a hit because he is forced to play out of position because of the lack of center depth. And there's only one individual we can blame for said lack of center depth. The unfortunate reality. Jack Hughes still in 5th place despite not playing in 3 weeks. 10 goals and 10 assists for 20 points. Then we see Shimon Nemeth, the breakout defenseman. What a season for Shimon. 6 goals, 9 assists, 15 points. Luke Hughes right there at 15 points as well. 1 goal and 14 assists. A lot of people getting on Luke. Listen, it is a little bit of a rough year for Luke, I would say. A little bit of a rough start. I have no worries about him long-term. I think he's going to be great. But as I've said a million times, once he signed that contract, To a lot of people, it firmly puts that bullseye on their back, and he's in people's crosshairs because, oh, he's making $9 million, blah, blah. I'm not going to get into the whole future value thing again. I'm tired of talking about it. But I do believe in a few years that will be a good contract. It will be a value and whatever. But it's not helping right now, and I get that. And so for all the people that are frustrated, yes, would I like to see him play better? Absolutely. Offensively, defensively, I'd like to see more from him. But I certainly am not going to sit here and kick this kid's back in and talk smack like many of you are, because it's just childish and ridiculous. Kid's 22 years old, playing big minutes, was playing on his offside. I mean, a lot of things going into it, all situations, shorthanded sometimes, power play sometimes. It's going to be part of the growing pains. You guys are expecting way too much of the young kid, and it is what it is. But he's going to be a good one. And then Grits, another nice story on the season. Coming over from the KHL, 6 goals, 7 assists for 13 points. Connor Brown with 6 goals, 3 assists for 9 points. Let me see Dilly. Dilly in the top 10. Love to see it from Dilly. 3 goals, 6 assists for 9 points. And yeah, Dougie, I'm not going to sit here and go through everybody, but I guess I'll finish off on Dougie. Underwhelming season for him thus far as well. Obviously would like to see a lot more from him offensively. He's had some power play time, then he's getting pulled off the power play. I've talked about him in depth for a while leading up to the season. And at this point, I will say, in terms of Dougie, it's unfortunate, but they just have to trade him. The corner that Fitz has painted himself and this team in, there's no way around it. Dougie will free up a spot on the right side of the D, will more importantly free up $9 million. And so at this point, Dougie's got to go, and we're going to have to hope that the defense doesn't implode. I do think the defense is going to still be pretty damn good. When Kovacevic is back, Pesci, I think the D will be fine. Hopefully we could get some solid goaltending, whether that's from Allen or Markey. Obviously, we're going to see a combination of both of them. But, at this point, it seems like the logical thing to do is going to be moving Dougie Hamilton sooner than later and freeing up some money. And now, when we look at this whole team, look at everything that's going on, I do not think there is going to be a single player that is going to fix this team. I just think there's several holes. There's a lot going on. But in terms of trying to just tread water until Jack Hughes comes back, and hopefully we could make a run and get a little hot at the right time, I do think the 3C is just absolutely mandatory. We need it now. We need it now. The rumors have been out there about Stamkos, O'Reilly, and at this point, especially if you're talking about futures, you may have to overpay, and that's okay. People have criticized Fitz in the past and have said that he will only make deals if he feels he can win them. And to some extent, I think that there could be some truth to that. But in the end, I don't care necessarily about winning the deals on the surface. If you have to overpay with prospects and futures, then do it. Because this window, in my opinion, will be closing quicker than people realize. The time to win is now. And if you do not do everything in your power to snatch winning now, while it's there, it's been here. 22-23, franchise record-setting 112-point season, beat the Rangers in a playoff series, and then it's been regression. No more regression. The time to win is now. I do believe this group, as is with Jack Hughes and Pesci back, are a much better group, but it's still not enough, and it's been exposed now that they're both out. And now you look at this thing and you're like, no more ignoring the 3C. We all know it's a problem. How do you fix it? And if it's O'Reilly, if it's Stamkos, it seems like more people are on the O'Reilly train than Stammer. I would be thrilled with either one of them, if I'm being honest. Obviously, Stamkos, the conversation with him begins at retention. I'm not a crazy person, guys. I have no interest in Steven Stamkos at $8 million. But if they're retaining half of it, or even, a few $1 million of it, then it can make sense. I'm not going to get into the whole Stammer thing right now, but I would welcome him with open arms at the right price. You don't get to add a guy to your team like that every day. And I do believe he would contribute more on the ice here than he has been in Nashville, but table that for a second. Or Ryan O'Reilly. Either one of them as a 3C, I think, would help this team a lot. But it's got to happen sooner than later, because I don't know, the hope and wish method has not been effective. Just hoping it's all going to fix itself. Again, if this team showed life and they were in competitive games and they were just on the wrong side of super tightly contested games, then I would feel slightly better. I'd still be disgusted, but I'd feel slightly better about a 5-game losing streak. But when you're shut out in 2 of them, and then you go on the road to, against Boston and play a team that has I'm getting texts. some of their major players out and then still only muster up a goal. Not enough. So 1 goal in 3 games, not getting it done, 5-game losing streak. I've seen enough. You look at the standings and you say, if they do nothing, this season can get away from us. And it's clearly because of the inability to improve the team on the fly. That's it. In-season moves have to happen. No more excuses. No more it takes 2 to tango. There was no one we couldn't get, guys. Again, Colorado last year replaced their tandem like that. And they're like, hey, let's get the former Woods from, New Jersey Devils former goaltender, Scott Wedgwood, Blackwood, and now they're in a prime position to win a cup. Obviously, Colorado is an absolute juggernaut, and I think a lot of goalies could look good there. But the point is, when you are determined to make moves, a capable GM can get it done. The excuses and all the stuff that people have thrown out there as a reason for not to not make moves is unacceptable. And now, without further ado, most of your favorite parts of the program, I will dive into the comments. There was a lot of chat. Shout out to all of you that are here on a Sunday night, non-game night edition of a little group therapy. But I'm not going to lie. I'm very upset. I hope that we see something done sooner than later because a couple more losses in a row. And all right. Oh, let me go back up a little bit. These are all in the past couple minutes. M Sharp says, anyone talking about condensed schedule due to Olympics? I mean, some people are, but the reality is that's nothing that's exclusive to the Devils. Everyone is dealing with this. And so it obviously, depending on the team, will hurt some teams more than others. You'd imagine it would hurt teams that are a little bit older on average, but in the end, everyone's dealing with it. And so, if you're going to try to look for rationale or excuses as to be like, oh, it's this condensed schedule, it's like, man up. Everyone's dealing with the condensed schedule. That's nothing that's exclusive to the Devils. Now, I will say last year, the global series, I do think the scheduling and the travel and everything with that, I think that's a bit wonky. And I think that did hurt the Devils last year. And the records of the teams that have participated in the global series since they've had it do support that. And so there really is like a global series hangover, if you will, type of effect after teams go overseas to play those games and come back. Like that does suck. Very real. Very real thing. But as far as a condensed schedule, everyone's dealing with it. And so I don't want to hear it. Everyone's dealing with it. Jay Snow says, oh, this is a hot one. I'd trade Brett for the right player. Well, the first thing that I said now, as of the other day, is that for me personally, every single guy on the roster should be available, period. To me, there's no untouchables anymore. When this team has went down this road season after season after season, at some point you have to say this group as a whole is not getting it done, and convincing yourself that they will is a fool's errand. They're not going to get it done. I hate to say it. I came to that point last night. A lot of people have said that for years, and I will say you ended up being correct, but I do think, in my opinion, that it was very hastily said by these people. A lot of them have a lot of malice and hatred in their hearts towards specific players, and they've made these comments for several years. It was very premature and early, in my opinion. I still had faith. There, the injuries and all that stuff was real. I do think it's a terrible excuse, but it is reality. And there was a lot of things that had happened, getting abandoned by your general manager. There was things that happened where I said, you know what? I think we have to see at least one more run of this core, and that was this season. Because people have been talking about this again for the past couple of years. But I thought this season was like, all right, let's see what they could do this year. And I put out the video months ago, The Last Dance, because I felt like for a bunch of reasons, this could have been it. But at this point, with how poorly they've played without Jack Hughes in the lineup, they don't even deserve the last dance for the playoffs. Like, sorry, but you don't. You've done nothing to make me or anyone else who's been watching this team and following them closely for the past several seasons. You have done nothing to convince us that you deserve this last dance. For what? To disappoint us again and get destroyed in the first round, best case scenario? Because that's what it's looking like at the moment. If we go to war with the same group or a couple minor tweaks, little depth pieces here and there, realistically, they're probably going to get to the playoffs and get cracked in the first round like they did last year. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is obviously they missed the playoffs. And so I don't think that that's a crazy thing to think at this point, because with the body of work and the history of what they've done as a group is extensive now. It is extensive. And at some point, you have to cut your losses and say, this is not good enough. They're not going to get it done. Time to move on. Max's team could really use a McLeod right now. However, I don't think you could bring that player back. This guy's been talked about forever. In terms of McLeod, I will say, I personally don't like the way a lot of these, I'm not going to get too into the weeds on this either, but the way these things play out, guys go to court. I don't know what the terminology is because people are like, they weren't found innocent, but they weren't found guilty, whatever you want to call it, right? And I'm not an expert in these matters, but for anything in life, if someone tells me so-and-so, Johnny was accused of this, he went to court and he wasn't found guilty for it, to me, that means Johnny's been absolved. I don't need to do my own investigation. I'm not going to sit there and do all these things. He went to court. They weren't found guilty. Life goes on. They deserve to work again. Now, with that out of the way, I do not believe, and I liked McLeod, big McLeod guy. I don't believe if you brought him back, you're getting anywhere near that version of Michael McLeod. That was now, 2 years ago or so? When did he actually leave? I think it was like 2 calendar years ago. I think it was almost 2 calendar years because I remember they weren't at Sweep the Deck. So it may have been like late January of 24, was it? Let me see. Yeah, so he took the leave of absence in January of 24, right? So it was almost 2 calendar years ago. You're not getting that version of McLeod again, unfortunately. He was out of the game for a while, then he was playing in the KHL. I believe he may have been scratched or cut from a KHL team. Like, the reality is he's not going to be the same player. Now, if somehow you were guaranteed that he was the same player, then I would take him back in a second. But I don't think that's the case. Obviously, the Devils aren't going to touch this. I've mentioned this before. Even if he was Superman, they don't want the negative publicity and all the stuff and blah, blah, blah. And so for all of those reasons, it's never going to happen. And so I don't know why people keep bringing him up. I guess it's just kind of one of those things. But I don't think he's anywhere near the same player. And I certainly think there are tons of better and feasible options out there for the Devils to look at. Jay Snow, I'd trade Bratt for Tuck. In a vacuum, I would. So here's the thing with this. In a vacuum, I would too, because again, earth-shattering moves, shake up the core. I do think a lot of people are going to look at it and be like, oh, we can't trade these guys. And I've said before, I fall in love with longtime players as well. But part of the business, and I've talked about this in the Lou days and all this, that, no one's here forever. And at some point, fan favorites and guys that you love are going to get dealt. And so we are at the point, in my opinion, now that there needs to be a foundational kind of shakeup and kind of start morphing the identity of this team away from what it has been, this super finesse skill, somewhat weak, soft group, to a little bit more of a hardened warfare type of hockey. And it's going to take more than, one guy to do that. But a guy like Tuck, I think, goes a long way in that direction. Now, my problem with this particular deal, Jay Snow, is that Bratter signed up for some years more at a good cap hit, and Tuck's going to be unrestricted and want like $12 million. If they both had like similar contracts in place and similar money, I would say I do that in a heartbeat. I think that's one of those kind of exact moves we've been talking about. Those moves that are hard to make, sting a little bit at first. People question it. It upsets some people, but in the end, it goes a long way in improving the team and kind of getting to where you want to go. But the caveat with Tuck is, for me, is just purely the financial aspect that his contract is up. He's going to want, I think rumors are like $12 million. And I think that's a lot. And so I'd much rather target a guy that has term left with a good cap hit. And Tuck certainly doesn't fit that. But as a player, I absolutely love him. And I think he'd be a great fit here. Ninja Foot says I'd trade Bratt for a used puck bag. I think that's, come on, man. I mean, it's a little wild. I understand people are down on him, but for a used puck, it's not like he's not doing anything. He's leading the team in points. Granted, it's heavily assist, driven, but better to get assists than nothing, right? I mean, you'd kill for some guys to have anywhere near the amount of assists that Bratter has. Hey, Russo, so basically I have to stay afloat for another 4 to 6 weeks when the Savior comes back. Doubt it the way things are going. And I agree that if nothing's changed, that won't happen. They've shown me nothing to make me believe that that they could do that without outside help. lost 3 games, won 3, and then lost 5. So you're talking about a team that is 3-8 in their last 11. It's absolutely grotesque. That is a grotesque stretch of hockey, especially considering the players that we do have in the lineup. When you look at our roster, you would never believe that if you remove Jack Hughes, that the team goes from, best in the league at one point and leading the Eastern Conference even after that, to then a team that goes 3-8 over 11. We've lost almost triple the amount of games that we've won in that time span. It's absolutely ridiculous. Max says Olympics might not even happen. Depends on the stadium construction. I've been hearing about this. The reports are all over the place. Some are saying it's much ado about nothing. Some are saying it's a very big, very real thing. I do think the NHL has had representatives go out there. Hold on. And it seems like it's going to happen. If it didn't happen, it'd be a travesty. And it seems like there is no backup plan either. So I don't know. It's something to keep an eye on. SST, when Luke will be good, which he won't. This is ridiculous hate. The Devils will be about to start the needed rebuild. I think they're at the point now where you kind of look at the retool. I can't see how you're going to claim it's a rebuild. I mean, we still have tons of great players and assets at our disposal. There's no reason to go into a rebuild. It should just be a classic retool where we focus on areas of need and, again, get some of those nastier guys to try to morph the identity a little bit and make a push. But they're certainly nowhere near a rebuild. I think that's kind of crazy. Jay Snow, I get the defensive issues with Luke, but where's the offensive? He can't even get his shot through. People keep beating this to death, too. He does shoot into shin pads and sticks and traffic a lot. But in the end, for a guy that everyone bashes, when you look here, he has the same amount of points as Nemo, and everyone's loving Nemo right now. Obviously, Captain Clutch with his shootout winner, the overtime winners, the goal to tie it up against the Islanders. Obviously, his goals have been way more dramatic and theatrical in nature compared to Luke, but he still quietly has 15 points, a little over half a point per game. It's not what people are making it out to be. It's not like he's not producing anything. But similar to Bratt, heavily assist-driven and would like to see some more goals. Eric, imagine what this team could do with the $15 million that Palat and Hamilton cost. There's your depth scoring. For sure, I agree with that. But these are... The thing with these are... Dougie was brought in years ago. It was one of our bigger free agent splashes. So I certainly understand, why we did it. In the new cap era, if Dougie gets back to how he looked like in October, $9 million for him is not egregious. Now, the $6 million for Palat, pretty steep, obviously, and a big overpayment. But again, I can't. These are deals that I cannot kill Fitz for, because this is the thing. You got to be fair with your criticism. And I've been plenty critical of him. But these are ones that I cannot be critical, because at the time, these deals made sense, in my opinion. And so I'm not going to use hindsight to bash the guy over this. That's what I do think is unfair that a lot of people do. It's just like they use hindsight and go back and bash every single thing. And while I'll certainly do that with draft picks, that's a whole topic for another day. But contracts, they're not all going to be winners. They can't be. No GM in the history of sports has batted 1,000 on free agent contracts. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. And unfortunately, I'm not even going to call Hamilton really a loss. I'm going to call that more of like an impediment at the moment. The Palat one is a loss. And a lot of people think it was kind of a reach and an overreaction after missing out on Johnny Gaudreau that summer, rest his soul, that the Devils missed on him, came in second, and then kind of signed Palat as a consolation prize. Now, again, a guy that had monster playoffs, leadership for a young group, it all made sense. He's vastly underperformed since he's been here, but I certainly, in good consciousness, cannot sit here and bash a man for these particular contracts because they kind of made sense at the time. So to use hindsight and then bash someone for stuff like this, that I think is unfair. There's plenty to bash the man about, but contracts like that are not going to be ones that I focus on, because I just think it's hindsight nonsense. Unhinged Devs fan, I was thinking I'd try to forget about the Devils for 2 days, give myself mental relief. Yeah, me too. I was unable to do so. I'm dedicated in it, die hard like Ace and many of you. Brutal time. What is a fan to do? A fan is to hope and wish that we either replace our GM or he wakes up and makes some moves and prevents this team from drowning, because we're watching a slow drowning right now. I would love to sit here with a straight face and tell you guys that I believe everything's fine. Like people chirped me for saying that a few weeks ago. And I said, listen, when I think it's time to hit the button, I'm going to hit the button. And I hit it a couple games ago, actually. If I'm not mistaken, I may have hit that button maybe after the Dallas game, I think. That was the 3-game losing streak, the 3rd game. And we're there now. I've certainly seen enough. And again, I do think I am fair, pretty optimistic for the most part, and patient. But at this point, it is clear with this group of guys, we are seeing the same movie again. And we're unfortunately seeing the same from Fitz with the inactivity in season. And it's not acceptable. It's certainly not acceptable. And I hope that he makes a move. Supposedly, Nashville's ready to move on from Stammer or O'Reilly or both. If you have to overpay with futures, whether it's a prospect and a pick or whatever it is, make it happen. The team needs help now. Do it before it's too late, because I would certainly, nothing will infuriate me more than if this team does nothing for a few weeks and they start sliding down the standings more, and then all of a sudden, and the fans better not bite on this, because I've seen this regurgitated and parroted by people. And again, the reality is most fans don't know shit. I hate to say that, including a lot of you here. And that's no offense to anyone. I'm not talking about anyone specifically, but fans in general are clueless. And so last season, the narrative of the defenders was basically Jack went down. He was out for the year. This team wasn't going to do anything, so why use assets? And then that kind of ran wild, and people were getting brainwashed by it. And that's bullshit. Complete bullshit. Do you think every guy in that locker room gave up on the season? They're like, oh, darn, Jack's hurt again. We're not going to do anything. We're just happy to be here. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that deadline was a slap in the face. It really was. There was no true help brought in, and these guys were out there to fend for themselves. And to their credit, they were that freaking game in Carolina, man. They were one meltdown game away from forcing a game 6 back at home, which certainly would have been interesting. Would have loved to be there for that. But it wasn't in the cards. We lost to a better Carolina team. And here we are now next season in December talking about if this group is going to make the playoffs or not. It's wild. Ninja Foot says missing the playoffs is actually the best thing possible for fixing this team. I completely disagree. Missing the playoffs is disgusting. It's deplorable. And it's irreparable damage. I do believe missing the playoffs in that 23-24 season was a massive blow to the psyche of this group. A team that was flying high all summer off of their playoff berth, the first playoff appearance for many of them, the playoff berth, which saw us beat the Rangers in a beautiful 7-game series after setting a franchise record 112 points in the regular season, to then miss the playoffs because of absolutely abysmal goaltending for months and months and months on end. And apparently there was not a single NHL caliber goaltender available from anywhere. Apparently that's the story. From anywhere on planet Earth, and we all just sat back and watched the team fizzle into obscurity. And golf, get your tee times, boys. We're playing golf early April. I do think that was a massive blow to the group, and it should never happen again. Never happen again. After that 22-23 season, it should have been complete win now mode. Playoffs every year are a guarantee. How far are they going to go? And it did not happen. And so I'm very curious, Ninja Foot, as to what your rationale is for how missing the playoffs would be the best thing possible for fixing this team. I imagine you're going to follow it up with something like, oh, then Fitz will get fired and they'll bring someone else in. But I'm here to tell you guys, even if we miss the playoffs, I don't think Fitz is going to get fired. I really don't. Unhinged, it wouldn't be so hopeless if we showed some fight in life in the past 3 games if they were gutless losses. Yep, I've said that a bunch of times as well. There's a difference between losing tight games, close games, warfare games, games that you just were on the wrong side of it, but you were competitive in the games. These games were not competitive for the most part. They were just embarrassments. Justin Smith says the Devils are screwing with everyone's mental health right now. Hey, you're not kidding. Traveling Devil, 25 lackluster games from Bratt this season, and all he has done previous seasons, and he is now the issue. I don't think Bratt's the issue at all. There are people unjustifiably hating on him. When discussing potentially trading Bratter, I just think it comes down to a function of if you're going to break up this core, you look at the group and you say, okay, everyone knows, anyone with half a brain anyway, knows they're not trading Jack Hughes. So you take Jack out of the mix. Then you say Timo Meier. It would be ridiculous for them to trade Timo Meier. We need more physical bulls like him, not less. He's the only really offensively gifted or, main offensive contributors that has that physical edge to him. And so it would be maniacal to trade him. We need more guys like him, not less. And so that, for me, would take Timo off the list. And that leaves you with two guys, Brader and Nico. Nico's a center. We have no center depth. Two-way centers don't grow on trees. Nico is a very good player. He's the captain. And so when you look at him or Brader, you're like, okay, well, who's the more likely one to be traded out of those two? And unfortunately, it's Brader. And again, it would gut me if we traded Brader. It would absolutely kill me, just like many trades Lou Lamoriello made during the glory days that I've talked about so many times on this channel. When he traded, Sikora away to get Friesen, absolutely gutting. Jason Arnott and Randy McKay, two absolute legends and cup winners, dealt away to bring in Jamie Langenbrunner and Joe Neuendijk, and so on and so forth. All over the years, these fan favorites and guys that have won cups. Let's be real. We're talking about guys who haven't won shit. They've won a single playoff, and I love them nonetheless, but they've done nothing to kind of earn this. A lot of, and I get it. A lot of it is because we have newer fans that have only seen losing years and whatever else, but a lot of fans talk about these guys as if they're these holy deities that couldn't possibly be traded. And it's like, as a group, these guys have accomplished nothing. They've won a single playoff round and 7 playoff games. You would think the way people talk about them is like that they've won MVP, league MVP 3 times over, 2 cups and a Conn Smythe. Like, that's not the case. This has been a group, and not to blame them entirely. Again, I do think management and other things, complementary pieces haven't been there, but have completely underachieved for a span of 9 years now. A single playoff round and 7 total playoff games won. It's honestly disgusting. It really is. All right, we fell back here, guys. We got to... Ninja Foot says, making the playoffs will only bolster postseason profits and the owners will want more Fitzy. But here's the thing, when people talk about this, right? Like, if playoff revenue is so important, then I don't understand why they are, what is the holdup in trying to improve the team to go further in the playoffs? I really would like to get my hands on some financials. I don't know exactly. I'm going to have to look into this. Maybe I'll do a little investigative reporting. I don't know if these things are made public or not, but I'd imagine with the ticket prices the way they are, and again, concessions and merchandise and blah, 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 I'd have to imagine each home playoff game would make the team a couple $1,000,000, I would think. And so if you go on a deep playoff run, if you're making $2 million on average every home playoff game, let's just see. That's a ton of money. So there's obviously a lot of money to be made with going. This is ridiculous. I don't know. AI is terrible. Oh, this is to the city, not the team. All right, I'm going to have to do more research on this. But I'm very curious, because if you go on a deep run to the Cup, or even you get to the second round, or you get to the conference finals, like, that's a substantial amount of money. Pahanzo says, I wish you'd take a day off so I can. I wanted to, but I'm too fired up. 4 Devils equal consistently inconsistent. Completely agree. We've just seen a team that is capable of, and this, I guess, is going back a couple weeks, because now I'm just going to say we don't even know. Not only do you fear if they're going to win or lose, it's like, am I even going to see a goal tonight? But it has been consistently inconsistent. You don't know what team you're going to see, and as of late, it's been nothing more than just misery. Yo, Holmes, it's a sick thing to say, but I can handle losing if it means firing the front office. We can't keep doing the same BS over and over. The reality is I can never root for the team to be bad, even if I knew for certain that missing the playoffs would ensure house being cleaned. I still couldn't root for them to be bad for that reason or any reason, but I really don't know that missing the playoffs would even get that job done. I really don't. Exo the Juiceman says, overpay for the correct player, though, Ace. Stammer isn't that player. I'm not saying to overpay for him, but with retention, and if they're going to dump him off for a somewhat cheap deal, how can you with a straight face say that Steven Stamkos isn't an upgrade to this lineup? Am I saying he's going to be the savior and fix everything? No. But does he make this team better? Absolutely. Absolutely. At a lower cap hit, obviously, with retention, I would welcome him with open arms. Please come here, Mr. First Ballot Hall of Famer. Teach our young guys how to win. Unhinged Devs fan, I said a while ago, Kovacevic may take some time to get up to speed. He's been out for so long. Pesci will be back sooner and should make a big boost. Can't come back soon enough. Yeah, hopefully he gets up to speed quickly. Hopefully he brings a little bit more of that heavier, edgier, more violent we've talked about for a long time now. We see little signs of it, but we need to see it way more often. And having it on your blue line is very nice. Right now, Dilly's pretty much the only nasty guy we got back there. Kovacevic would give us 2, and that is super valuable, especially come playoff time. You're gonna need your horses to get going. And I would love to see Kovacevic and Dylan just smashing people. TJW 37. Ryan O'Reilly is 34. Hard pass. That's a win now move, my guy. You're just living in I don't know, Jordo. You're living in a bizarro land. You want to win the cup in 10 years from now with Yegorov. I want to win a cup now. The time to win is now. That is a win now move. I think he's got what? Let's see. And I love how people talk about 34 like it's 70. Like, when did this become a thing? Yeah, O'Reilly is this year or next year. Win now. Win now. Love the move. Love the move at the right price. Select the boy says exactly ace enough regression. Yeah, that's all we've seen. Regression, regression, regression. Unhinged Fan says, I got an ad for nasal antidepressant last post-game live. No joke. Did anyone else get that ad? Targeted advertising for Devils fans currently. Ninja Foot, I'd be thrilled with Stammer or O'Reilly. Come on, man, you've got kids? What does that mean? What kids? The age is crazy to me. We're not talking about trying to win a cup in 10 years from now. These are win now moves. Period. Now. Win now. I'm not talking about getting them to one day be good with guys that aren't even here. No, forget the age. Win now. O'Reilly has this year and next. Win now. That's right. Right now. Right now. People are talking about 34 like it's 70. I don't know when this shift happened where all of a sudden guys over 30, it's like, oh my God. You people would have said this about Marchand last year. And, he would have never wanted to come to the Devils. But hypothetically, if he did, because when I put it out there, I wish I saved him. Tons of people were saying the same thing about Marchand. He's old. He's this. You're crazy. And the guy would have won the Conn Smythe if it wasn't for an all-time playoff run by Sam Bennett. Brad Marchand would have won the Conn Smythe for the Panthers. Selected boy, I'd rather Stamkos on retained salary. Alex, get over the age. Ryan O'Reilly is a perfect 3C on a steal of a contract, playing great in a two-way guy, plays with no visor, Stanley Cup winner. Tell him. I like Ryan O'Reilly. Ninja Foot says, always the bottom of the barrel with our fans. I think it's just sports fans in general. I fell far behind again, guys. Let me... Like, Brian, this is dooming. This is a definition of dooming. Luke sucks right now, Ace. Plain and simple, and he hasn't shown me anything that will make me think he'll be worth his contract. I mean, it's crazy. He's having a rough start to the season, but has shown since he's been here signs of brilliance. You've seen it. So if you don't believe it, you don't believe it. But to, again, start calling a contract terrible, what are we, 4% into his contract roughly? We're 1/3, call it 5%. We're 1/3 of the first season out of 7. So we're 5% of the way through his contract, and you're already dooming on it. Collect Records' first group of moves has to be made. Hamilton, then get Ryan O'Reilly here, then see what we have left for a sniper, then maybe buy Palat out. I don't think they could buy him out mid-season, if I'm not mistaken. That certainly may be, if he's still here, obviously, at the end of the year, that's certainly something I expect them to look at and take a hard look at during the summer. But Dougie, I do think will be moved one way or another. One way or another, that money's got to get freed up. Ninja Foot will be watching an AHL roster in the lineup by March. I certainly hope not. That would be a travesty. We cannot flush another season down the toilet. Zach, I have a burning feeling that a move is made before the next homestand. The only question in my mind is whether it's a good one. At that point, I do. I hate when people do this. It's that Mercer. Nemitz, Dawes plus picks. Okay, so yeah. So the translation here is Nemitz, Mercer, Dawes plus picks for Quinn Hughes and Kiefer Sherwood. I would love to see them come over here together. I've been talking about Sherwood. I think he'd be a great fit too. Slightly concerned about what he'd be looking for in terms of a contract afterwards, but I do think he's one of those guys that would help morph this identity more towards what it should be, especially for playoff hockey. That's an interesting proposal. And I would hate to lose Nemo and Mercer, but I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this all plays out. Yo, Holmes, Fitz waiving Wedgwood and losing him for nothing only to sign John Gillies as a fireable offense, and that was 3 years ago now. Oh, you didn't like the Gillies era? Alex, we needed a legit 3C before the season because Jack has a track record of going down. Fitz effed up on that. Yeah, it was one of the kind of needs that everyone was talking about that was ignored, and it kind of got brushed by the wayside because the team was winning. Winning cures all. Winning cures all, and it masks a lot of stuff. And the shortcomings of this roster and the roster construction as a whole were hidden and concealed by the fact the team was playing well with Jack Hughes and winning games. You guys are chatty. It's a chatty group. TJ, Nico, Timo, Jesper, and Luke are all untouchable. I want Nemitz to be untouchable, but I don't think he truly is. I'm over the term untouchable. For me, there's no one untouchable. But organizationally, that list is probably... Let me think about this. No, Bradder's definitely not untouchable at this point. I mean, that's just the reality. And as dumb as it would be, I wouldn't be shocked if somehow... I don't think they would, and I think they'd try their hardest not to. But I wouldn't be shocked if they traded Timo, and I think it'd be ridiculous. But I do the only ones that would shock me. The Hughes brothers are not being traded, so I'm not even going to consider that. Yeah, the only ones that would shock me to be traded outside of them would be Nico. I think would be the only one that would shock me if the team did it. Four Devil Ace sounds like a Leafs fan. We got to break up the core four. Well, I think people were calling for that for a while there as well. And I hate to say it, it seems like we're living in a very parallel kind of situation. Once again, a group of guys that was once so promising, just continually churning out subpar results. And it sucks. Bungie says, was talking with my buddy today, and he thinks trading Nico, Jack, and Meyer for picks and start planning to build out from the net when Yegorov gets here is the way to go. Your thoughts, Ace? I think that's a terrible idea. It's one of the worst ideas I've ever heard. This team is not as bad as they're playing right now. Again, keep in mind, Pesci and Jack are out. Now, is everything solved with them back in the lineup? No, but the team is exponentially better. And now if you start adding complementary pieces on top of that, I think they could be a legitimate team. But there has to be a willingness and a desire to actually make that happen. Bring in a guy like O'Reilly or a Stamkos or whoever it is. And we didn't even get to Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes would be not my number one wanted player in the league, obviously. The defense is fairly set. I don't think that anyone would look at this roster and be like, the Devils really need an offensive defenseman to fix things. But Quinn Hughes is a different species, a completely different species, elite of the elite, one of the best players in the league. And I do believe that he helps the offense tremendously because of what he brings. And he's going to help the defense as well because he's going to take some pressure off them. The Devils will spend way more time in the O-zone with Quinn Hughes on the team. That is just a fact. Just a fact. Zone entries, everything about Quinn Hughes is elite. And he'd be a tremendous add for any team in the NHL. Any team that was able to get him, they are a better team with him than they were the day before they had him. Now, my concern is what it would cost to get him and all that stuff. But I do think if there's a sensible deal out there to get Quinn Hughes, it should be investigated. And don't waste time. Do it now. That's a win now move. As much as I would hate to lose some of the pieces that are being talked about going the other way, if it's not an egregious overpayment, and some people are going to complain no matter what. That's the interesting thing about the Quinn Hughes thing. So many people are so kind of wanting it to happen And then there's others that are like, oh, just wait the 2 years. But like, that's a big 2 years, right? In 2 years from now, what is our goaltending going to look like? You know, what is our blue line going to look like? Is Jack Hughes still in one piece? Did he cut off another finger? What's Nico and Timo playing like? Is Brader still here? Is he playing good? Is Nico even here? Like, there's so many question marks. The window is going to start to slowly close, in my opinion, very, very soon. And the time to win is now. You got to put some chips in the middle and make a move. And I think landing a guy like Quinn would be a nice jolt to this team in more ways than one. Traveling says, I'm thinking Nico goes before anyone else on the top lines. And that could be the case. Once upon a time, I would have considered him untouchable. I don't know that it's, you know, I think he's on the list of guys they would prefer not to deal, but in the right deal, they may do it because we don't know what's going on behind closed doors regarding his contract stuff, right? They're technically not able to extend him yet. But I said months ago, I was worried about that because I thought it mattered a lot and hinged upon how this Devils team kind of operated and played leading up to that point. Nico clearly wants to win. He takes pride in winning. He wants to win a Stanley Cup. And at this point, if you were Nico Hischier, would you honestly believe that the New Jersey Devils give you the best chance, or any chance for that matter, of winning a Stanley Cup? Because if he hits unrestricted free agency, I'd have to believe there'll be no less than a dozen teams. Most of them will be playoff and cup contending teams on different levels that will offer him a Brinks truck, armored truck full of money to sign there long term. And so if you're him, I don't know how you could rush to extend a deal to stay in New Jersey when there's so much uncertainty floating around the team. Is this a place to win a cup? And if I'm Nico Hischier, I'm looking around and I'm saying, no, it's not. No, it's not. And there's plenty of other options. And so if the team has any sort of clarity into his thought process, maybe they're thinking, well, you know what? He's not going to sign here anyway. This may be sooner than we planned on doing this, but maybe it's time to cash him in. That could be the case. Pure speculation, but you don't know how these things are kind of being talked about behind closed doors. If they think he's not going to sign here, well, then you know what? Maybe it's time to package him up. And these are all things that happen when teams start to just completely play like crap. Don't bother going into details. What is this about? I don't know what that was about. I'm far behind again. We got to speed up here. All right, we're going to start speeding ahead. SST with positivity, as always, says Brad is a ghost in the playoffs. Should go. Ritter Engine, sup, Ace? Is this all just a bad dream? I wish it was. It's really not. Jason, we have assets they could retool this team, but I don't want Fitz being the one doing it. I agree. But if the options are him to do nothing all season long and then we hope to see some change at some point, or have him attempt to do some sort of retooling, then I'd rather see his attempt. Jason says, I think we overvalued this team after 22-23. I think there's a little bit of truth to that, but you don't get 112 points in the regular season and then win a playoff round by complete fluke. I refuse to believe that. Cape Dweller says, easy on the Brat hate, fellas. He's Mrs. Dweller's favorite devil. I think there's only a couple people truly hating. The rest of us are just kind of spitballing. But I certainly love Brader. I'm trying to skip ahead here. What's going on, Ryan? Artie, did you watch TSN? Hughes talked about trade to the Devils about 20 minutes ago. I did not see that. What was it on? Hughes. Oh, you must be talking. You're probably just talking. They probably just showed a clip. Was it Quinn Hughes after the game last night when the reporter asked him about the Elliot Friedman report? Dougie chose us. Yeah, Dougie chose the $9 million a year. I know. I did find that pretty funny. It was like they're trying to claim some big victory. Like, oh, he picked New Jersey. Like, yeah, he picked New Jersey because you gave him the most money. Anson, pure hypothetical. Would you rather add O'Reilly and Quinn or Tuck and Stammer? O'Reilly and Quinn for sure. O'Reilly and Quinn. Yeah, I'm with Max. Chowski, I think Fitz has a problem being too nice to his players. If you're a Fitz guy, you pretty much get unlimited chances. That's country club stuff. There could be some truth to that as well. Maybe he doesn't have the cold-hearted killer in him that Lou Lamoriello had. Lou was an assassin. He would have traded everyone and anyone. If he thought it made the team better, he was always the one to preach. It's the crest on the front of the jersey, not the name on the back. And Lou always did what he thought was in the best interest of the team, even if it meant making some of those hard decisions and trading away fan favorites and guys that he liked. If he thought it made the team better, he would make the deal. Dire Wolf, we missed this year. You got to think Nico seriously considers going to market. I mean, even if we make it, if there's no major changes made, if we make it, we're probably going to get pasted again. And so is that in terms of this conversation with Nico assessing where he wants to spend the majority of the rest of his career? Because let's be serious, when he signs a long-term deal, it's not going to be his last contract, but it's his last big one. And it will be the bulk of his, it is the prime years of his career. And then some of the tail end kind of coming down off that. Going to the playoffs and getting waxed is very similar to missing the playoffs. In the end, it means you're not a true contender. And so is he just going to want to stick around somewhere to maybe make the playoffs and get abused in the first round? I don't think so. Ninjafoot, circling back on what he said earlier about missing the playoffs may be a blessing. They missed the playoffs. Fitz gone. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion. Decisions made on the core, they'll have a better hand to play when people come looking for Nico, Timo, Brat, Luke, etc., rather than us trying to trade, say, a Mercer for someone better than him. Yo Home says Nico may be traded, kids. Don't put it past Fitz. Cisco says Timo is a tank. Nico needs to stay. Selected Boy said, hell, it killed me when Coleman was traded. Traveling, what if Nico walks? We could be in the same spot Vancouver is in right now with Quinn. Yeah. This is something I talked about for a while. And people were like, oh, you're crazy. He's definitely signing here. And I was like, I don't know. And I still to this day don't know why people ever believed that. If we were this perennial cup contender, I would be more comfortable with that line of thinking. But we haven't been. We hit our pinnacle in 22-23, and it's been step back, step back. So to just assume that he just, his undying love and loyalty to New Jersey, he's just going to sign here and spend the majority of the rest of his career with an organization that has not truly shown a real commitment to winning. Why would he do that? Alex, we need to come to terms that no matter what trade is incoming, if it does, it's going to be a gut punch. Teams know we're desperate with our cap and team situation. I do think there's a chance that there's trades made that aren't necessarily a gut punch. Like hypothetically, if we traded, let's just say the only deal they did was a prospect and a first-round pick for O'Reilly and didn't lose a roster player, like I don't think many people would consider that a gut punch. I mean, maybe these people that super overvalue draft picks in the cupboard and love to talk about how bright the future is because of all the picks and prospects we have, those people, the future's obsessed. But the time to win is now. The time to win is now. All future pieces should be dealt to bring in reinforcements to help this team win now. Anson, I think Nico would play better if he wasn't the captain. Too much pressure on him, not his personality. Interesting theory. I don't know if I agree. There could be some sort of truth to that. But for the most part, I would say I don't think so, but you never know. GMR, trade every future pick for win now pieces. Absolutely. This team should have no interest in drafting in the first round for the next few seasons. There's absolutely no need for it. The time to win is now. Jay Snow, it's the never-ending rebuild. JMR, I'd rather make the playoffs and get swept than not make it at all. Oh, I like this guy. GMR, you're my kind of guy. Making the playoffs is vital. And we saw it in 23-24. My mind will never be changed that was psychologically damaging to these guys to be coming off the high of the season before and then to not make the playoffs. Unacceptable. 1,000 times out of 1,000, I'd rather make the playoffs and get swept than not make it at all. Could not agree more. Crazy Alex says, even in a normal game, if every seat is $80, they make millions. So let's say 300 each average, they make millions a game. I think 300's on the definitely a round up, but maybe not by too much. I mean, playoff tickets are crazy. Ryan, I'm hoping Nico will be a Devil his whole career, like Patrick Eliash. Alex, imagine Nico doesn't want to sign back. He's going to be a UFA after next season. Codes, at this point, making any move is better than nothing. That's kind of my philosophy. Outside of like making a horrible, like a truly horrible trade. But I don't think, I don't know. It's hard because it seems like Fitz only makes those safe trades or trades that he feels like are an overwhelming win. So I don't even know if he would have it in him to make a trade that would truly hurt the team. I don't think he would. But I do know that I do think a lot of people are delusional in terms of what it would cost to get Quinn Hughes. I think people are thinking we're going to get him for spare parts, which is insane to think. And if that deal does come to fruition, I do think there's going to be, I think the majority of the fan base will be thrilled that Quinn is coming and there'll be a lot of excitement and buzz around it. But I do think there will be a pocket of fans that claim it was stupid and we overpaid and blah, blah, blah. And obviously you can't please everybody. But that one, I think, will be polarizing depending on what is sent the other way. And if it is Nemo included in a deal to Vancouver for Quinn, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are really pissed. But, again, sometimes the best deals are the ones that are super hard to make. Jason, you'd have to trade Nico before he became a free agent if he's going to walk. Absolutely, and I don't think the team would ever be in a position where they lost him for nothing. If they had, the info that he wasn't going to re-sign, I think they would trade him. Ryan says, if Nico left, he'd end up haunting us on another team. What, like every single goalie ever does and most forwards? Zaka gets a goal last night. Schmid shuts us out the night before that. It's crazy. There should be some sort of study done on the success of former New Jersey Devils when playing the Devils. Bottom six, Crookshank actually has been playing well because he has the urgency and wants to be on the ice playing with a purpose. Yeah, guys playing for a job, trying to get minutes and stay in the lineup. Absolutely. Coming from the AHL, trying to crack an NHL lineup and be a regular, you're hungry. And some of these guys, are just kind of lollygagging it out there with NHL salaries that have been in the NHL with job security. There's definitely something to that as well. TJ, 34 isn't 70, but it's way over the hill in NHL terms. Your NHL prime is like 28 or 29. O'Reilly is an NHL geriatric. That's great. We don't need him to be in his prime. We just need him to be a player that can contribute for 2 seasons, for 2 playoff runs. I don't need everyone to be in their prime. It's okay if you're not. Just contribute and contribute at a much higher level than the guys we already have here. This is Mark. Ace, how about Philip Deneau, one of the most underrated 3C in the league? I hear Kings may shop him. I mean, listen, depending on what the cost is, there's tons of guys that I think would help this team. Tons. So it's Fitz's job to kind of assess what the cost is on each of these guys and make a move with whatever one or whatever team kind of is giving us the best value. Fake Deaths, Ryan O'Reilly would be a massive boom for this team. Bungie, Gen Z, younger Gen Z, think anything over 25 is ancient. Unk status, I think they call it. It is crazy to me how everyone thinks over 30 is dead. Like, look what, again, there's tons of Marchand. There was tons of people. When I mentioned Marchand last year, and I even prefaced it with, he's not going to want to come here. But in this hypothetical dream world, I would love Marchand and named all the reasons why. He's kind of a Claude Lemieux. He could do a little bit of everything. He's an agitator, blah, blah, blah. And people were like, he's washed. He's, blah, blah, blah. He's old. And then you saw the playoff run he had. Like, I'm tired of hearing the age stuff. It's just such a cop-out and lazy. Completely lazy. Alex, Cotter is talented as shit. I don't know how he doesn't pop more goals. Is it his hockey sense? I mean, a lot of people kind of knock his playmaking ability or ability, I guess, to read plays or whatever. He's shown the crazy hands in the finish that he, shootout menace, had that nice breakaway goal last week at some point. I would love to see him finally put it all together, but he's another guy that with all these injuries, he was starting the preseason with Grits and he was looking phenomenal. I was so pumped for him. If he had played all year with Grits, he would have put up some big numbers. But then all the injuries happen, the lines get shuffled up, and then he's getting new line mates. He's getting some nights he was on the fourth line with guys that you knew weren't going to contribute a damn thing offensively. And so it was like, offensive production was going to be hard to come by for Paulie Cotter, unfortunately. Brian says, win now, not a chance with this lineup, Jack or no Jack. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Max, sure, 34 is older. However, Ovi is still on pace for 40 at 40, so age is indeed just a number. Select the boy, win now. Alex, getting one of them will only help at this point, even if it's barely anything. TJ, win now is not realistic with the way Markstrom has played this season, regardless of who Fitz may or may not bring in to bolster the lineup. Well, if we just had Markstrom and a nobody, I would agree. If the playoffs started tomorrow, I'm fairly confident in saying that Jake Allen would be the starter, and I do think he could carry this team if need be. Nolan, 180 watching, only 55 likes. Come on, people, do better. Damn, those are depressing stats. With that said, we have a Marquee Allen for a few years, and we need at least one cup. No excuses. Hit the thumbs up for your boy. Don't be stingy now. Alex, TJ, look at Crosby, Marchand, Ovi, Malkin, etc. Like I said last night, Ace, some of the folks in this chat would have had a meltdown with the ages on the 08-09 Devils. For sure. For sure. And the thing is, some guys do look like they're dead at 35. But with where this team is right now, for a guy like O'Reilly to fill a glaring hole as a third-line center for a team that has aspirations of doing something this year, who's only signed for this year and next, I'll certainly take my chances. I will certainly take my chances rather than just fade into obscurity. So, Alex, those guys are on a bit of a different level. Sunrise, these are professional athletes. 34 is near post-prime right there. Look at Crosby. Crosby's a freak of nature, guys. Complete freak of nature. Yeah, as long as you don't think O'Reilly's going to be a 1C. Ritter, you look back at it all and you see all these sorry, useless patches Fitz tried to use to fix the team. Outright blasphemy. You can't put O'Reilly in the same sentence as Crosby and Ovechkin when making an argument that 34 isn't old. Yeah, but there's tons of other guys too. I mean, using generational superstars like those guys might be a bit of a stretch, but there's plenty of cases of other guys. People were saying Bobrovsky was too old, and then he's a back-to-back cup champ with the Panthers. And again, I keep using Marchand. Last year, Marchand's old. Look at Marchand. So, and it's not to say that O'Reilly is the type of player or the level of the player that these guys are, but it's to definitely show the point that there are plenty of guys throughout NHL history who have contributed, after 30. 30's not dead. Logan, Ryan O'Reilly is producing on a bad team. These people have lost their minds. He'll be fine for the next 1.5 years. I agree. Artie, Quinn Hughes was just on TSN. He knows he's going to be traded to the Devils. He said he's well aware of it. Are you referring to the clip outside of the locker room? Andrew, I heard Dougie, Mercer, and a second for Quinn. I cannot see that being remotely realistic, Andrew. I think if somehow Fitz was able to pull that off, it would be amazing. I just can't see it. Dougie, Mercer, and a second for Quinn. I would personally consider that a highway robbery win for the New Jersey Devils. I can't see it. And I will tell you, if somehow that deal did get approved, it would be Fitz's finest hour, and it would send Canucks fans into an absolute crash out. Complete crash out, because some of the things that they believe they're getting or the packages that Canucks fans online believe they're going to get are and I think most of them are unrealistic. And I think the real package would kind of somewhere fall between this type of thing you're suggesting and then the nonsense they're saying. But if Fitz was able to pull Dougie, Mercer, and a second for Quinn, I mean, that would be a heist. Mark, Scott Stevens was 38 when he won the 03 Cup. TJ would have wanted him traded for picks because of his age. It's possible. Let's get Rantanen or McDavid. Oh, my God. TJ, again, a guy like Stevens is totally on a different level than O'Reilly. I'm not saying all old guys are bad, but in general, 34 is too old of a player to give up major assets for. Well, I guess that's where we disagree. That, like, who cares about picks? It's the time to win is now. First round picks are they're assets, but they're not doing anything to help us win now. And so I'm clearly spending them on win now. Ace, you just said earlier that Jack and Timo were untouchable. Now you say nobody's untouchable. No, I said to me, nobody's untouchable for the right deal. Everyone's on the table at this point. With that being said, I said from an organizational standpoint, I don't think, the Hughes brothers, for a fact, they're trying to actively get the third one. So, Jack is out of the question. And then I would think that they would be smart enough to look at the roster and realize, Timo is the only guy we have of this type of player. And so I think that would make him untouchable to the organization. But for me, there is no untouchables, depending on the deal. There's guys I obviously would prefer not to trade, but truly untouchable doesn't exist in my world anymore. Everybody is available for the right deal. I would try to pry Quinn, Sherwood, and Evander Kane. I'm ambitious. That's certainly ambitious, all right. M can't stand it. Ryan O'Reilly has 845 points. He may not be Crosby, but he's also not another plot. Same with Stamkos. I agree. And I would say, not O'Reilly, but Stammer to me is in that like 1B kind of, like Crosby and Ovechkin are top tier. For me, a guy like Stammer's that tier below. First ballot Hall of Famer, absolute legend. And would absolutely be thrilled to add a guy like that to the Devils at the right price. Ryan O'Reilly has 21 points in 28 games this season. Stamkos has 53 in 71 games last season in a down season. TJ, you're crazy. Yeah, I'm not worried about O'Reilly's age for, if you're telling me he had a 10-year contract and he's 34, then fine. But for this year and next, sign me up. Sign me up. Alex says Ryan O'Reilly on this team is putting up 50, 60 points in a 200-foot player. That'd be an amazing outcome. Quinn has some insane puck possession numbers, best in the league. Andrew, what does everyone expect? We're down our best offensive player and our best defensive player, and our depth isn't very depthy. But it shouldn't be this ugly, man. It's not like we have a roster of no-name guys. Like, even without Jack, on paper, our forward group, or at least our top six, is definitely better than a lot of other teams in the league, even without Jack. So it's kind of crazy to think that they're going to play, 3-8 over an 11-game stretch because Jack's not there. It's just unacceptable stuff. Alex says, I'm okay with passing on Quinn right now. I don't get the hype. Just wait. The hype is that he's a top 10 player in the league. You can't deny it. Now, would I would fully rather use the assets on a true game-changing power forward, but that's not in the cards. What's in the cards is they want to get the Hughes brothers together, and so with the inside track on him, because we have his brothers, can Fitz find a way to make a deal happen? And I think even he can't mess this one up, I think. Someone did bring up the logic that if you get Quinn now, you do it. The longer we wait, the more Vancouver starts to field other offers. Oh, I fully don't think they would ever trade him without fielding as many offers as they could anyway to drive up the price. That's just good business. I'm sure a lot of these stories are being fed to the media as kind of propaganda and bidding war tactics, or maybe tactics from other teams trying to, it's all gamesmanship. And in the end, I do believe before Quinn is traded anywhere, the Canucks will have received a bunch of different offers for them to analyze before they kind of figure out where they want to ship him. And with that being said, though, I do think a lot of these GMs want to look like the good guy and do right by the player, and they know where Quinn wants to go. And so I do believe that unless a team comes with an offer that blows the Devils' offer out of the water, I do think they will try their best to send Quinn where he wants to go. As crazy as that sounds, I do think that is kind of the new wave of general managing and trying to do right by players. And I think they will try their best to get him in New Jersey. Robert says, I think we get Quinn before Christmas. I do too. I mean, it was sort of tongue in cheek, but last night I posted the video of the reporter after the Canucks game asking Quinn about the Elliot Friedman report that I guess came out at some point during warmups. So it was very new. It was a few hours old. Interesting kind of body language and reaction by Quinn. He actually called Tom Fitzgerald Fitzy. He was like, oh, it's not like I got on the phone with Jim and Fitzy, which a lot of people ran wild with. But I did tweet that video last night and say, I think Quinn is a Devil by next weekend, because now I just think this is going to become, it was already a massive story and wasn't going away. But now, like after we had the Friedman report was kind of gas on the fire. And now the guy asked Quinn, and now that clip's going crazy. And so this is going to continue to be a massive, massive distraction surrounding the Canucks all day, every day, until he either extends with the Canucks or is traded somewhere. And at some point, the Canucks are just going to have to pull the trigger. And it seems like they're in the phase right now of probably accepting that Quinn is a goner, that it is in their best interest to trade him. And now they are trying to plant the seeds and do whatever they can through the media and whatever else to drive the price up, to start fielding these offers before they inevitably trade him. Plan 8 Skater Ace. We don't Ace. Have we don't a deep dive in the cap future and the most realistic outlook considering Quinn, Nemo, Cotter, maybe Palat buyout. I mean, there's so many in terms of cap future. Like, you'd have to believe that Dougie and Palat will not be here. And then you just don't know with these trades. There's so many guys from the Devils that could potentially be traded that it's really hard to kind of have any sort of handle on it, because there's going to be money going out. Backs and racks. The rumor alone that Quinn might go to NJ is why the team doesn't put effort anymore, because the rest of the team knows that Hughes boys are going to run this team to the ground. I don't know what you mean by that specifically. Ryan says Nico has a modified no trade clause. Yeah, but guys could waive those at any point. So obviously it's a little bit of a barrier, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. TJ, I very much want Quinn, and I would take him now for a modest trade cost. But the rumors flying around on the internet are outrageous, and the Devils would be foolish to pay a king's ransom right now. Give us your realistic trade package, TJ. What do you offer for Quinn Hughes tomorrow? Alex, I say we get Quinn just for marketing all three Hughes brothers. It's an unserious organization. F the cup. We can sell all the tickets. It's definitely a marketing play, but you can't deny how good of a player he is, and he would make the team better. Mark, I think we overvalued Vanacek after 22-23. Hellebuck was looking to go elsewhere after that season. Devils were of interest. Fitz said we didn't need him. Me and my buddy Steve the Maniac were salivating when we heard the rumors the Devils were in on Hellebuck. We were texting nonstop, and we're like, oh my God, imagine if we get Hellebuck. And we wanted him bad. After that 22-23 season, I wanted to see a tandem the following year, more than the air I breathe, more than the oxygen in these lungs. I wanted to see, along with Steve the Maniac, we wanted to see a tandem of Hellebuck and Akira Schmid. We would have been set for goaltending for years and years to come. But here we are, hoping for the best. It's a shame. Would have loved to get Hellebuck. Ryan says, just Googled it. It says Nico has a strong desire to win a Stanley Cup with the New Jersey Devils. Also, he has stated that his ultimate career goal is to win a Stanley Cup with the Devils. What the hell does that mean? If you, I don't know, you just Googled it so Google could read his thoughts? Yeah, at the time, you know, while his goal is going to be to win a Stanley Cup with whatever team he's playing on at that time. I don't think he's hell-bent on bringing the cup back to New Jersey as much as some of you would like to believe that. I think in the end, he just wants to win a cup wherever he could get it. And if it's in New Jersey, I'm sure he'd be thrilled. But if you're being realistic, what has happened over the past few seasons or at any point during his career, if we're being real, would make him or anyone else believe that this is a place for him to win a cup? Please enlighten me, because I'm not seeing it. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but I haven't seen that. And I don't think, if he was being honest, or at least internally to himself, that he probably thinks the same thing. We had LTIR money 2 years in a row. We did not spend it. That loophole is now closed. An opportunity they will never have again. And I believe it at one point it was like 6 of the previous 8 cup winners all were over the cap in the playoffs because they exposed the LTIR money injury loophole. And now it's closed up, but we could have done it the past 2 years. Loads of LTIR money. We didn't spend a cent of it. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Bungie says ROR and Quinn easily. All right, let's skip ahead a little bit here. Not yet, Joshua. Soon. Soon. It's being worked on. Fentanyl Floyd says Fitz's big moves will be waiting until Jack and Pesci come back. That's not going to cut it. Certainly not going to cut it. What's going on, Jersey Roots? Click the like button, Face. Appreciate that. Hit the thumbs up for your boy. Takes half a second. But thank you, sir. Always has realistic takes. I think so for the most part. Some people will disagree, but I think they're mostly realistic. Jersey Roots, I heard Vancouver declined a trade from Philadelphia for Kiefer Sherwood. I would hate him to go to the Flyers. I would hate for him to go anywhere in the division, honestly. But would love to see him here. Supposedly he wants a big deal. I mean, a big deal for him. I think people were saying like 5 years times $5 million. Again, there's just so many other variables. I can't say or not in the moment whether I would give him that deal because there's just so many other question marks. But in a vacuum, it doesn't seem like a crazy deal. Would that potentially fit with the Devils' outlook? I don't know. Because, again, we don't know. Is Quinn coming? Is this guy where we're going to be at? Who's coming in? Who's coming out? If Nemitz is still here come the offseason, he's going to be due a massive, massive raise. Gritsuk, I expect to be here. He's going to get paid. So there's a lot of moving parts in terms of cap space for next season. Robert, still so much dead weight on this team has been a problem for many years now. How many years now? Fitzy, make a move now so we can have a nice Christmas on a winning streak. That would be nice. That certainly would be nice. Alex, Ace spelled it out on Marchand, and I'm with you, dude. Yeah, people just are scarred by the age thing. I mean, they're not all going to work out, but I'll tell you what's certainly not going to work, and that's playing pocket pool and doing nothing is definitely not working. And so I'd rather swing and miss. If we get O'Reilly and he sucks, at least we tried. I'd much rather see that than absolutely nothing and get the same or worse result. Hindsight's 2020. NJ is 7th in the Metro now. What got updated? I reloaded that. That's supposed to be 7th in the East, maybe? Oh, let me see. Oh, we got to be further than that. Oh, my computer's acting up. Yeah, 7th in the Metro. Second to last. Only to the Jackets. We have one more point than them. How depressing. Ridiculous. But for a division that everyone thought was going to suck coming into the season, it's looking pretty competitive. Frank, how do you feel about the Markstrom extension? I've talked about this. It obviously was very odd timing, and I understand. I mean, I think people are extremely dooming on it thus far. Technically, the extension is for next year and the year after. How his season has started out, it's obviously concerning. I will 100% agree with everyone that was questioning the timing of it. I think coming off the injuries and a shaky start to the season, it certainly was odd that they picked that time to give him the extension. And I said the only possible scenario I could come up with in my mind is that two things. One, the team thought that maybe the looming contract situation was kind of in Markie's head and messing with his psyche a little bit. And they thought maybe if we get this squared away, that'll be something out of his head and that may translate into him playing better. That's just, just a wild hypothesis that I'm kind of throwing out there. And then I also think, to someone else's point, that you know, sometimes teams try to come off as like the good guy. But I think the other factor of it was because Jake Allen was signed for so cheap that they kind of look at it in total and say, okay, Markstrom at 6, Jake Allen at 1.8. That's a $7.8 million combined cap hit in the new cap era for a goalie tandem. That's pretty damn low. And so I think they kind of looked at it like that as a justification. Maybe thought, again, it would take some pressure off Markey and we'd see him play better, and it would kind of just be something they wouldn't have to worry about, and one less item on the agenda list going into the offseason or later, you know, just to take something off their plate. But it certainly was odd timing. Obviously, you cannot deny that. For a guy coming off an injury, you know, as an older guy with a little bit of shakiness to start the season, it certainly was odd timing for sure. Crazy Alex says, regardless of age, if you produce, you produce. Bungie, if Fitz pulled off Dougie, Mercer in a second for Quinn, I will eat my shoe at the next Devils home game I attend. Yeah, I mean, it'd be a crazy grab for that price. Goaler, no way. If that's the trade as Canucks GM, I just hold on to a disgruntled Quinn and let him walk. Yeah, I just can't see that being a realistic return for him. World's Worst Gamer, they are getting a first and a couple other picks plus a secondary prospect, nothing more. Talking for Quinn Hughes and him going to NJ. So you're saying a first and a couple other picks plus a second. Now, that seems light, too. That's definitely light. Mark, Kyle Palmieri is 34, made the assist of the year on a torn ACL. Yager's in his 50s and still lighting people up. Age doesn't mean jack. It's about conditioning. Man, prayers up for Palmieri. What a dog. Tears his ACL, and as he's like scraping himself off the ice, he picks somebody's pocket and sets up a goal. The goal horn was literally still going off as he was getting dragged down the tunnel. What a legend. That's definitely assist of the year. Robert Ace at this point makes some sort of trade to shake up the team. That's what I've been saying. They need something. Doing nothing is not a viable solution, or it's at least not a viable solution to fix the issues going on, and for this team to make a run to get to the playoffs. The standings are tight. We could be. It's just disgusting to think about. I honestly, and that 8-game heater, man, really got me excited. I really believed that this year was going to be different. You know, again, not to say that I thought they were going to win a cup necessarily, but it seemed like a team that could be in the mix. Like, okay, this team has shown, you know, they could maybe put a little run together and win a couple rounds, maybe make the conference finals. Like, that would have been a nice improvement. But here we are, another season with a Jack Hughes injury and another season that has seemed to go completely off the rails. All right, I'm trying to catch up a little bit here. Andrew, I think guys in their 30s may be better than kids in their 20s because of the work ethic alone. Guys in their 30s aren't cutting their hands on glass at a restaurant. I mean, listen, I'm not going to kill them over it. We'll never know exactly what happened. It was probably something stupid, and like freak shit happens, but it's just so unfortunate for this Devils team that it had to happen to him. Of every guy there, Jack had to be the guy to cut his hand in some weird Chicago cut incident. Frank says, bring back Taylor Hall. So that's another guy that I was chirped about last year when the rumors were coming up that he might be available from the Blackhawks. He's another guy that I said I would absolutely look into, because for a team that had a black hole as a bottom 6, approaching the deadline, I don't even remember when. It was maybe even a good chunk before the deadline. I straight up made a video that said I would look into Taylor Hall for sure. He certainly would be an upgrade in the bottom 6, and depending on some other things, he may have been a top 6 player for some games for the Devils. And I had a whole bunch of other conditions that I said in the video as well, but I certainly was interested in him. And you've seen what he's done in Carolina, and he got extended there. Still an NHL player. Traveling, Timo, and Dylan are the only players in the Devils that lay NHL hits. Cotter does too. Bonzo, I'm not trading Hamilton and Mercer and picks for Quinn. Who's going to score in place of Mercer? How about Hamilton plot Hamilton, Palat, and a first and second for Quinn. That I think is another unrealistically low trade package. But the reality is Quinn is a 90-point defenseman. Like, he could potentially lead our team in points in any given year as a defenseman. Brings a ton of offense. And I have said this before too. I don't think Dougie will go to the Canucks in the trade. It'll either be a three-way trade with another team or maybe a separate deal entirely. But I do agree Quinn's not going to come here without Dougie getting shipped out for both a spot on the D reason and the money involved. So I don't see Quinn coming here unless Dougie's shipped out, but I don't know if it'll necessarily be to Vancouver, and I don't think it would be. I think there'd be another team involved. Again, whether it's a separate trade or a three-way deal, but I do think if Quinn is brought in, Dougie will certainly be going out, but to another team. Alex says, add Sherwood to the Quinn trade for sure if you can. Yeah, that'd be nice. Would like to see some a little bit of that grit brought into the bottom six, and he's been on a tear offensively this year as well. Hey, Russo, at this point, just get Quinn and Sherwood and roll the dice. 2 firsts, Casey, Salayev, Dougie, and maybe a second. I don't think that gets it done either. And I don't think they're going to take Dougie. I think Steve the Maniac hypothesized that maybe they, if not a three-way deal, or I guess I don't know if it technically would be considered a three-way deal, or they trade for Dougie and then they flip him in a separate deal trying to get a pick for him. Alex, Quinn is going to get a haul. You all are going to see one of Nemo or Mercer going, if not both. I do agree with that. I do think some people are just severely underestimating the package that Quinn Hughes would get. Andrew, hey, Ace, what do you think it will take to get Quinn? I mean, I don't know. I think for some teams, I think would be offering probably a first-round pick, a very good prospect, maybe a very good roster player, and then maybe another pick or another prospect. But I think he's going to get like 4 pieces. I think it really would be like a couple futures and maybe a couple roster players. One of them definitely would be a first-round pick, if not 2. Like, I do think even for a rental scenario, I think there'd be a ton of teams who would pay up to have two playoff runs with him. Travelin says Nemitz leaving for Quinn isn't something to cry over. SST, Palat or Hamilton, if they waive their clauses, along with Nemitz and picks and prospects, will go to Vancouver in money for money Quinn trade. Traveling Devil says one is a Norris winner and the other is having a decent season so far. And that's the reality of it. Everyone has to realize, and I love Nemo too, and I do think he's going to be a great defenseman, blah, blah, blah. But like in the end, you know, do you believe that his ceiling is anywhere near what we know you're getting in Quinn Hughes? I mean, if you're being realistic, you have to say it's not. And it's unfortunate, but like, yeah, are you going to let Nemo get in the way of landing a guy like Quinn Hughes 2 years earlier? Now, some people will come back with the rebuttal, well, we could just wait 2 years, but like so much happens in 2 years. 2 years in terms of what we're talking about now, in terms of winning now and blah, 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 is an eternity. Like in 2 years from now, Nico might be gone. Both of our goalies might have career-ending injuries and we're looking for goalies again. Like Dilly, when is Dylan's I think Dylan will be gone at that point. And maybe 1 year left on the Pesci and Siegenthaler deals. I forget. I don't have it all up in front of me. But there's so many question marks about what this team will look like and the state of the players who will still be here at that point. And so the time to win is now. There's an immense value in having Quinn Hughes now rather than on July 1st, 2027. Don't get me wrong. If it plays out that way, I'll be happy when we sign him on July 1st, 2027. But I do think if you could get him here now, you must try. You must try. Gleason, the funny thing is that if we trade both Nemo and Mercer for Quinn, we might be worse for a little while without another forward trade because the forwards would be that bad and the team D wouldn't be any better. No, but that offense is going to be a lot better. And sometimes your best defense is a good offense. And Quinn is a beast. Beast. Andrew, hey, Ace, what do you think it's going to take to get Quinn? We have all the leverage. But we really don't, because there's going to be other teams trying to get him as well. I do think, like I said earlier, that they will try to accommodate Quinn and send him to New Jersey. But if other teams are offering way better packages, they're going to be like, listen, buddy, like you have to go do a stint in wherever, and you're feel free to go sign with the Devils on July 1st, but we're not going to take a much less package just to appease you. But with that being said, there is a limit to how crazy teams are going to get with the packages they offer if they believe they don't have a chance to sign him long term. But there's still big value in 2 playoff runs with Quinn Hughes. But I do think it'll be several pieces, first round pick or multiple first round picks, a roster player, maybe a very good prospect. You're talking about getting a top 10 player in the league. Like that doesn't have, guys like that don't get traded too often. XO the Juice Man, I've been thinking Canucks do need Mercer as a center as they will be drafting in the top 5. Maybe Nemitz, a B-level prospect in a first, might do it. Oh, if you're willing to give a package like that, I think that definitely gets the deal done. Something in that world, which some people will riot about. But I do think Nemitz, Mercer, a first is a great starting point in terms of the Canucks approving it. I'm not saying that I'd be thrilled with that. But let's just say it was Nemitz, Mercer, a first, and something else. I think that definitely gets the deal done. Now, whether the Devils have the stomach to pull the trigger on that is another story, but I think the Canucks would begrudgingly accept that because I don't think they're going to get any better than that. Alex, I'm sorry. I wish. And people saying who's going to score if Mercer is gone. Well, Quinn is a point plus per game defenseman. There's your answer. Yeah, he would. There's a good chance in some seasons he would lead the team in scoring, which is crazy. And if he didn't, there would only be 1 or 2 guys above him in points, and one of them being his brother Jack, who's a center. So, he's going to definitely he would have more points than most of your forwards that don't have the same last name as him. Traveling shouldn't have bought a Nemitz jersey till after 10-1-26. I mean, it's the risk people take when they're buying jerseys. You never know how long they're going to be here for, but what a great start to the season for young Nemo. Ninja Foot says, I don't think Bratt could physically lift the cup. He definitely could. Bratt is under a kind of sneaky strong, underrated strong. He may not play the nastiest, most physical game, but he has a pretty intense off-season kind of training regimen, and he's definitely a lot stronger than people realize. Bring Quinn to NJ. Alex, I have a more realistic proposal. Quinn and Sherwood for Nemitz, Mercer, and 2 firsts. That could be in the realm of possibility. Brandon, Winnipeg tour spot here. How you all doing? Ace, where was the pizza restaurant tour? It's coming. I got a lot of projects in the works. The pizza's coming. I don't know. He thinks he's calling in. He had a million chances last year, didn't do it. And now he's like, on the warpath. Jack had a sophomore slumps too. XO Juice Man, they want centers, but they are also wanting to replace Quinn. I don't think a center will be part of the package. Devs, 2000, we could have gone after Hellebuck. Now we're stuck with playoff VTech 2.0 Markstrom for another 2 years at $6 million. Can we buy him out before the contract extension kicks in? They're definitely not going to do that. Eric, how many have any cup winners from the past 10 years went on a 5-game losing streak? That's interesting. I'd imagine there's a chance that one of them did. I think, granted they didn't win the cup, but I do think the Oilers may have had a couple of them before going to the finals and losing to the Panthers. Jay Snow, Cody Glass is our 3C going to the season. Another problem. Yeah, I agree. I would have liked him as the 4C, but it seems like, for the past couple off seasons, there was a couple glaring things that were kind of ignored. And it was like, oh, well, maybe that's something they address in the season. But it's like, again, how many times are we going to watch the same thing happen? Gleason, not to argue senselessly, but I do want to say that Marchand is the exception, not the rule. He never slowed down, so there was no risk taking him on or reason to think he'd fall far off. Well, a lot of people, again, will just cite age. Washed up. One thing for sure, though, why would Canucks want Nemitz if he doesn't want to guarantee sign there at the end of the season, or would Nemitz have to sign with the Canucks? I think that could be, I'm not sure of the rules of all of it. If he could be extended before the trade, I think that's a possibility. So it's almost like a sign and trade situation. I'm not exactly sure, but I think the Devils probably could have a contract in place before he's traded. Half Naked Frankenstein. Quinn helps with zone entries, offense, and he could probably hold Luke accountable. I'd imagine it would be probably beneficial to both Jack and Luke to have their older brother here. I think that could only help. Jersey Root says Marky's too inconsistent. I regret that extension. I'm still holding out hope that he gets it together and we see consistent performances. But Devs 2000, it wasn't necessary to sign Markstrom to the extension when they did. Where is he going right now? Could have waited till the calendar year to at least evaluate the kind of season he's having. Fair criticism. Fair criticism for sure. And then Jason, that's what Fitz does. Maria, any possibility Marky pushed for it hard? It is possible. Certainly possible. He could have been like, I want my extension done. I think that's all within reasonable kind of theories. They did say, I think, for a few months leading up to it, that both Fitz and Marky wanted to get it done. So here we are. But I'm not going to keep harping on this. A lot of you guys like to beat the dead horse. Like this, I feel like has been a dead horse for a couple of weeks now. People talked about it incessantly after it happened, but like it's done now. The extension is done. The timing of it was odd. I hope it works out well. As of right now, I think everyone is within their right to be a little nervous about it, given how the season has started. But the extension is technically not for this year. It's for next season and the season after. So nobody could call it a bad signing anytime soon. You could say it looks like it'll be bad, but to categorically call it bad is wild. Hey, Russo, about to go rewatch the 8-game heater post-game lives on Ace's channel to feel good. Oh, man, it hurts. I don't know. It hurts. Bungie says, bring Hall back so I could wear my new-to-me Hall jersey. What a great season by Taylor Hall. Dragging a mediocre Devils team to the playoffs and winning the Hart Trophy as league's most valuable player. The first Hart Trophy winner in New Jersey Devils franchise history. Crazy to think about. M. Sharp, you won't see what Palmieri did happen in any other sport. Definitely not. Legendary. Will be part of hockey lore. Absolutely. I remember seeing the play and being like, oh my God. I think I was at a Devils afternoon game. I forget which one it was. Maybe it was a night game. I don't remember. But I remember seeing it on my phone in the Rock and being like, wow, Palmieri, what a dog. And then the next day it came out that he tore his ACL. And I was like, holy shit, this guy dragging himself to the bench, steals a puck and sets up a goal. I mean, if this happened in basketball to a guy like LeBron, if he tears an ACL, you're going to see him clutching his ankle, rolling around on the court like he got shot. They're going to be lucky to get anything. You're crazy. They'll take what we give them. No, there's going to be other teams. It's not like this is a one-horse race. There's other teams that will certainly be in on him. Dougie has a no-move clause. Not sure he would waive to go languish on the Canucks. I don't think he'd go there. I do believe he'd be going to a different team. Jersey Roots, I heard Dallas is interested in Dougie. They need right-handed shots. Yeah, so maybe that's either a separate trade or part of a three-way deal, but I certainly think you could find a home for Dougie somewhere. Frank says, why do people like Mercer so much? Well, I don't know if it's necessarily that people like Mercer so much as the fact that this forward group as a whole has been underwhelming for the most part, underwhelming overall. And Mercer right now is our fourth leading scorer. So a guy that plays all situations, homegrown talent. John says 2 firsts, Nemitz, Casey for Quinn. That's an interesting one. That's a real interesting one. I mean, it would really suck to lose Nemitz or Mercer in that deal. It seems inevitable that at least one of them would be included. But if we could keep if we could keep Mercer out of it, I would be pretty happy about that. Half Naked Frankenstein, Fitz trading off to Foley is probably the one that still hurts. But again, that's one that I'm going to have to defend Fitz. Like, what were you going to do? Were you going to pay him that money? I wasn't. I also wasn't going to not pay him and then not address another top 6 forward. I think most of us foolishly assumed that if we didn't sign to Foley, that money would have been invested in a different top 6 player, and it wasn't. Coincidentally, we may or may not have kind of filled that spot internally with, I guess if you're counting this season, when fully healthy, Mercer and Grits kind of claiming those other 2 top 6 spots outside of the core 4, but it was never addressed in a trade or free agency to truly, fill the void that Toffoli left. SST says, by the time Quinn gets here, the Devils will be 15 points out of the playoffs. Toffoli looked good in the red and black. I love Toffoli. Our competition for Quinn will be with other teams. I agree. Hey, Russo, 3-way team trade. Vancouver gets Dallas first. NJ 2 firsts. Mercer, Casey in a second. NJ gets Quinn. And who gets Dougie? Dallas, I guess. Dallas gets Dougie. Yeah, like something like that could definitely be realistic. Brandon says we don't even have a roster spot for Nemo right now anyway once injuries are finished. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think that was kind of the thought going into it because the team did seem all in on Kovacevic and routinely was like, Kovacevic is part of this team. He's going to be in the lineup when he comes back. And so if you're not sitting Kovacevic, you're obviously not going to sit Brett Pesce. And so that leaves you with and you have if Dougie's still here, so it's like who's the odd man out? But I do think Dougie will be dealt. Dougie will be dealt. Kovacevic has no trade protection too. Anson says, wait for Quinn unless you think his presence wins you a cup in the next 2 years. Well, it could. If you did all of the things to truly win now, those are 2 big seasons. And again, this year and next could be the end of Nico Hischier here. Hypothetically, could be. And so not all your chips in the middle, but some of your chips got to go to the middle. And getting Quinn is a win now move. Win now. This team, and I would love to see, again, O'Reilly or Stammer. Let's just either one of those guys plus Quinn on this team with Pesce back, with Jack Hughes. I think the team is capable of going on a legitimate run. I really do. Devils 2000, other teams have to look at Quinn as strictly a rental, knowing that there's a good chance he's going to the Devils in free agency. If I'm a cup contender team, I wouldn't care if I win a cup. Well, that's the whole point. You win a cup, then nothing else matters. And I do think there are plenty of other teams who would make a play for him, even if they knew it was only for 2 years. For teams that feel like they're right there on the cusp of reaching out and claiming a Lord Stanley, they'll pony up to try to land a guy like Quinn Hughes. I was saying he's a Norris defenseman. You're giving them shit and saying they'll take it. I know, it's crazy that people think we're just going to rob them. Team Majos, I hate to say it, but Nico for Quinn. They want a center, and both are free agents the same year. Hamilton will be shipped out for another forward for lesser salary, and I could see us losing picks in Casey. I mean, that's an interesting one. I don't know that I've heard anyone propose that one. I just can't see it right now just because this team is in desperate need of more centers, and to trade our best 2-way center and captain, I think is crazy. I can't see it happening, but who knows? As well as moves, but I don't see them trading Mercer, Grits, Glass, Nemo, or the Russian defensive prospect, referring to Salayev. Alex, bro, I'd hate to give up any of our guys, but they're going to get value for Quinn way more than you're offering. Jay Snow, the real problem is Fitz is more worried about having the three Hughes brothers than actually winning a cup. I don't know if that's necessarily Fitz or it comes from above. Organizationally, you could be right. And you know, they probably believe that the three Hughes brothers does move you closer to the cup. And I would say I agree. I think it does move you closer. Now, does it actually get it done and really put you over the hump? I don't know. Just Quinn alone, I don't think does. I think Quinn in conjunction with some other moves could. But again, the team is much better with just Jack and Pesci. When they come back, this team will be better. How much better? I don't know. There's so many variables and question marks surrounding this team at this point. A fragile group that has looked completely lost without those guys. But you get those guys back from being injured. You get a 3C like Stammer or O'Reilly, and then you somehow get Quinn. All of a sudden, things are looking up, and they're looking up in a hurry. World's Worst Gamer. Anyway, who cares? I got my 3 Stanley Cups and saw the best hockey played that will be played in my lifetime. The unfortunate reality. Unfortunate reality. I just want to see one more before it's over for me. Ryan, ace and net for the Devils next game. I don't know about all that either. Celluloid, I don't think the package the Canucks will get will be nearly what people are speculating. And I think that's a thing that people are kind of thinking as well. I think they're going to get a decent amount for him, but I do think it will not be anywhere near what many delusionally optimistic Canucks fans are putting out there. Like, some of the stuff is crazy. Like, you really think you're getting all of these pieces for Quinn Hughes? Some of them I think are beyond delusional, but we'll see. Time will tell who was more accurate in their assessment of what the package ends up being. Anthony says Bratt, Nemitz, and a first for Quinn. That seems fairly excessive. Maybe Cairo is gone. It wouldn't shock me to hear he was traded Monday. Is that heating up? I haven't been following that one too much. These rumors about trades and so forth are put out there by their agencies to get the best for their player. Completely agree. There's a lot of propaganda and smoke screens and all kinds of things happening behind closed doors to try to, you know, people are playing chess out here. Adam, I'd like to see a blockbuster. Let's go for Hughes and Pettersson for Nemitz, Mercer, Plot, first rounder, and a conditional 5th round pick. I have zero interest in Pettersson. He makes almost $12 million. I don't want him at all. Not at all. I would love Hughes and Sherwood, but I want no parts of Pettersson. Keep that guy away from this team. World's Worst Gamer says, I disagree. It's a one-horse race. Quinn Hughes has made it clear he only wants to play in New Jersey. I don't know that that's ever happened. He said he wants to play with his brothers, but I don't think that means that he's unwilling to go anywhere else. And I think if he has to make a stint or play for a stint for a year and a half in another city that's a contender, I think he'll do it. I mean, to my knowledge, he doesn't have trade protection. Now, there's been these reports coming out like, we heard he may have trade protection. It's super weird. I don't know how it's not known. Like, I thought it all has to be divulged, but apparently we're dealing with a case where no one knows for sure. But either way, there's a very good chance he gets dealt to another team. What's it to you? I left for 2 hours. My man still going on a Sunday, no game night props, brother. Yeah, people got a lot to say. I'm trying to get through these comments. Obviously, it's a little bit more tolerable than after a game where I have to like scroll through pages and pages of dooming. So, you know, trying to do my best here, but a lot of people have a lot to say. Their grievances, trade ideas. I'm trying to get through it here. Celluloid, speaking of Nemo ceiling, I think 5-6 years down the road, everyone will be stunned by the levels he reaches. Okay, but here's the thing. Do you honestly believe he's going to ever reach Quinn Hughes level? That's the question. Is he going to reach Quinn Hughes level? John Fay, not to mention, I saw something saying he called our GM Fitzy. Now, if that doesn't say something, I don't know what does. No, he did, and obviously he's familiar. You know, he's very familiar with Fitz. 2 of his brothers play on this team. I do believe his father was teammates with Fitz at some point. And so, you know, they're kind of like family friends, right? And so he does know him. There's that familiarity there. I'm not going to put too much stock into that as other people are, but it is kind of funny that there is that relationship. Team Majos agreed. I believe it is known Quinn will join Devils either by trade or free agency. I remember Patrick Kane did the same when he went to New York for a second-round pick. Man, that's crazy that him and Tarasenko went to the Rangers and we beat them in the playoffs. It just didn't work out. Team Majos, maybe Dougie gets dealt for Kadri. We save on cap in Calgary. Can eat the cap space, and he played there before. Interesting. Kadri, again, people are going to talk about how old and ancient he is. That one worries me a little bit just because of the well, if they eat some of the contract and retain, then that's fine. But he has several years left. And like if you miss on that, like that will be referred to as the next Palat. Fentanyl Floyd, a player like Quinn might convince Nico to stay with the team. Maybe. Or it could do the complete opposite. Maybe he's like, I've seen enough of this. This is now kind of going more into this direction. You never know. Mark, the more I think about it, getting Quinn now would definitely boost his team's play. There's no way it doesn't. He would be one of our best. Shit, with Jack out of the lineup, you could argue that Quinn would be our best offensive player as a defenseman. And that's no shade to anybody else, but he may be the best offensive player the Devils would have with his brother Jack out of the lineup. Let's see. What's he doing right now? Mark, is there a world we get Quinn and trade for a Stammer or O'Reilly or Shen? I mean, there is. There certainly is a world where those things could happen. Unfortunately, I think that's in the same world where Tom Fitzgerald is not our general manager, because it's certainly not out of the question or unattainable for competent GMs. Now, has Fitzy shown to be that guy? Not really. But I'd like to believe that asking for just 2 deals, and I'm with you, Mark, a center and Quinn Hughes would make me feel much better about this team for sure. And I think many of you. Now, it still might not pan out or meet the expectations that we're going to have, but I think it makes the team much better nearly immediately. And so if somehow we have the inside track on Quinn, can you get that deal over the finish line and then figure out a way to get us this 3C, and I would feel much better about the team. Jay Snow, Devils ranked 26th in high danger chances. That's the huge problem. This team's not been creating offense. Anson Meadows can't be desperate or you get fleeced. I mean, I think everyone knows at this point where the Devils really are, and I do believe they are desperate now. Like, this season could get away from us in a hurry, and if that's the case, there's going to be a whole slew of issues for the organization to kind of mitigate. But in the Quinn situation, they do have the inside track, in my opinion, because I do think they're going to try to get Quinn there. And as long as the Devils come up with a package that works for them, that's not too absurdly low, I think they try to fulfill his wish and get him with his brothers and look like the good guys. Celluloid, Fitzgerald needs to push the chips to the center of the table right now. They're not as young as they were. We're no longer building. What's the holdup? Fitzgerald seems to not know when to pull the trigger. I agree. This is the thing. Hesitation to truly try to win now. Everyone gets caught up in, and this has been the narrative for years now, is talking about how bright the future is. The future is now. The time to win is now. Our goalies combined are 70 years old on the downswing. Let's hope we could get one in the twilight of their careers. Dilly's coming towards the end. We don't know what the status of some of these guys will be in 2 years from now. Everything is kind of there. If you tweak it properly, they are capable of going on a little bit of a run. But it's not going to happen if you sit back idly and you're too cautious and, gun shy. The time to start blazing is now. Right now. Mark, we could trade Nico. I'm sure that Vancouver fans are thinking trading their captain is crazy too. Yeah, but totally, I mean, I think the difference is, again, everyone knows he wants to play with his brothers. He's not going to re-sign in Vancouver, and so it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. And from the Devils' perspective, again, Nico is a center. We desperately need more centers right now with Nico in the lineup. So to trade Nico would be crazy to me. Totally crazy. Yeah. Anson, exactly. Losing Nico and we already have center depth problems is a big mistake. I completely agree. Backs and Racks, Ace start a raffle of who can guess what number Quinn will wear when he gets to New Jersey, since Luke wears 43 already. Team Majos, yeah, and would be an identity shakeup, hopefully for the better. Other guys can step up on center. We just have forward depth problems in general. We can't score. Our play style doesn't work without Jack. Jersey Roots says, Brat for Stammer straight up. Absolutely not. I certainly am not trading Bratter in a deal like that. Now, again, I'm open to trading anyone if the right deal is there. But to trade Brat in a deal for Stammer would be psychotic behavior. You know, if Brat's getting traded, it has to be for a big-time piece, not for someone like Stammer. That's just nuts. You think Luke gives up the number, huh? I don't know that he would do that. I think Quinn would either just go 34 or one of the numbers he wore for Team USA. When he was younger. Good night. Can we throw Dawes in for a few games? I wouldn't mind seeing it. I've been a big Dawes guy for a while. Devs, appreciate all you do, Ace. Thank you. Thank you for watching, sir or ma'am. I'm assuming you're a sir, but you might be a ma'am. Jersey Roots, Coleman and his pickle juice couldn't hurt a lot of people on the bring back Coleman train. It does seem like our fan base is a sucker, if you will, for these reunions. Alex, Quinn would smoke all our other players in points as a defenseman. Yeah, maybe not Jack if he stayed healthy, but most of the other guys. Half-Naked Frankenstein, I wonder if Quinn is pissed about how Rutherford is making this a constant media circus. Maybe he'll do us a solid and say, make an NJ trade happen. I mean, I'm sure they've already had these conversations to some extent. If you think they're not talking about it at all, it's kind of crazy. But the media is going to keep feeding it, and it's going to become a thing. And so I think it's all going to come to a head. Brandon, I wonder if Kobe coming closer to health is going to push a trade sooner than later. It could. I think that's a realistic kind of thought there, with having to free up the money. Like, does that kind of get the ball moving? Like, okay, this team's shitting the bed right now. We've lost 5 in a row. Kovacevic is on the horizon. We got to free up that money. What's the best way to kind of go about and massage all this? It's a very good point. Alex says Brandon has to because we won't be cap compliant. Anson, thank you for the super. 2 for your next winter beverage, Ace. Like the stream, comrades. Thank you very much, Anson. Really appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up for your boy. Thank you very much. Appreciate the support. Appreciate the super. Mark, love the content. Tune in daily. Praying we get this turned around and Fitz doesn't sit on his hands. Agree with you. We need a 3C, and if we get Quinn, great. I mean, listen, that would be quite the turn of events, right? I mean, talk about not necessarily rags to riches, but getting a top 10 player and the second best defenseman in the league in Quinn Hughes, and then finally solidifying the 3C spot. I think that's pretty damn good, in my opinion. Now, does that magically solve everything overnight? No. But with Jack and Pesci back and a real 3C in Quinn Hughes, I think we quickly become a real deal cup contender once again. Justin Ace, you think Quinn Hughes will be a Devil by next week? I mean, I did tweet out, again, sort of tongue in cheek, that I think he's a Devil by next weekend. But I think now I always go with where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's been certainly a lot of smoke around this ever since the day Rutherford said that stuff I've talked about this. You guys know. Ever since their end of the season press conference, when Rutherford straight up came out and was like, he wants to play with his brothers, everyone was like, holy shit, man. We all thought it. We all thought that was the reality. And it's kind of been like alluded to, but never like so directly. And I think he's the president. He's not the GM. I think he's the president of the Canucks. For him to straight up come out and say that. And then later on he jokes and he's like, I probably crossed the line. That may have been tampering, because he said something like, you know, when someone asked about the Quinn Hughes contract and blah, 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 and he was like, we're committed to Quinn. We want to have, give him the contract he deserves. And then he said something like, it's always not about money. He's mentioned he wants to play with his brothers. And then he was like, and we could maybe do that if we bring his brothers here. And everyone was like, oh my God, total bombshell that he dropped. And then from there on, it was on. Like, it was just the Quinn. For me, after that, I came on here and I told all of you, I said, it's official now to me. The fact that this dude came out here and said this, he's priming the Canucks fans, kind of giving him the first little dosage of like, this is what it is, and we're inevitably going to lose this guy. And it's kind of been building up since that time, which was, I guess, April. So you're talking about, this has been kind of festering for 8 months. And now it's like when you shake up the soda, you shake up a bottle of soda and then you open it and it explodes. I think we're about to twist off that Coke cap and watch that fountain of bubbles go everywhere, because it has been mounting and mounting and mounting, and now it's at a fever pitch. If you put in Quinn Hughes right now in Google, there's just article after article after article about the Devils, Quinn Hughes. It's a full media frenzy now. And so it would be in the best interest of the Canucks on so many levels to do this deal sooner than later, from the distraction with the team, potentially to recoup the most value. Like, it's in everyone's best interest just to get this thing done, because it's never going away now until it happens. And it's just going to continue to be a distraction. And they're going to keep getting questions about it. Then they're going to start asking other players about it. And so the easiest way to get it all done and over with is to make the deal. Brandon, Fitz has always been way too patient. He hedges risk against safety, and we've lost every time. Completely agree. Doing nothing is an ineffective method to try to fix a team. M. Sharp, Fitz should have learned his lesson by now. He must have something in the works. Can't keep this team hanging. Oh, you have a lot more faith than me. I hope that's the case. But, Mark, I would like to think a realistic package for Quinn is an A-B level prospect, Nemo and Mercer. But then if we get rid of Mercer, we're creating another problem. And I've maintained that all the time as well, that I don't like making a move and creating another hole, right? And so I do think that including Mercer in the deal is creating a hole. Now, with that being said, is there another piece you could bring into at least kind of to call that a wash? I think there is. Now, I don't know exactly who that is, but I do think there's a world where you can kind of fill the hole left there as well, because let's be real, adding Quinn on defense is a massive, massive upgrade. Massive. Massive. He's going to score more points than all of our forwards. And so you look at the whole map and you're like, okay, well, if we do this and we send Mercer, and again, I hope we don't, because I don't like creating that hole. And I've been a guy that's defended Mercer on this channel for months, maybe even years, when people were slandering this kid. I would like to see him left out of the deal, but I think that's probably a somewhat realistic package. I'd imagine there might be some firsts in there. But yeah, I mean, that's along the lines of realistic, I think. But I personally would like to see Fitz keep Mercer out of it if possible. Quinn will wear 6. Yeah, A. Russo. I think he's worn that in the juniors, right? Or not juniors, in the World Juniors or something. I could have sworn I've seen a photo of him wearing a number 6. Marked Ace, with all the assists, Brat should be moved primarily to center. No, he's a winger. You can't just make him a center. Husky Unchained, I'd like to see Grits and Cotter united again. Yeah, you wouldn't like to see it as much as Cotter would. I mean, my God. Like I said, I feel bad for Cotter. He started off in the preseason with Grits. He was looking great. I think he was primed to have a career year. And then with all the injuries, everything got shaken up, and Cotter got screwed, unfortunately. Horrible luck for him. Other people's misfortune created misfortune for Paulie Cotter, and in a contract year. It's rough. M. Sharp says, love the analogy. NJevs 28, if we get Quinn Hughes, I bet first line in overtime will be Jack, Luke, and Quinn. I don't think the first will be like this, but if it was, I mean, yeah, having all 3 of the Hughes brothers out there in an overtime certainly would be highlight reel stuff. I mean, wow. Shaking the soda. Evan Spitzy, they better not do nothing. Again, everyone's biggest fear, that sitting idly and doing nothing, that is a realistic possibility. If we're being honest, it's a possibility that there's nothing done or something super minor, which I still consider like nothing. But I hope that's not the case. That's all we could do is hope. Mark, sneaky deadline end could be Bjorkstad for a depth fourth line center. Big guy gets in the corners when draws. Sherwood or Besser. Sweb or Swee BJJ. I just don't understand how we can make the cap work for a Quinn trade. I don't see Dougie or Plot waving to go there. Again, you guys have to understand, these guys don't have to go directly to Vancouver. They could be put either in a separate deal entirely or as part of a 3-way deal. But it's not the impossibility that everyone has been brainwashed to believe that, Dougie and Palat are untradeable. It's not true. Maybe the Devils have to retain. Maybe they have to throw in a sweetener of picks or something, or maybe they have to do a combination of both. But either way, there certainly is a way to trade these guys. Now, I don't think either one of them goes to Vancouver either, but we need to free up their money, again, in a three-way deal or in a trade to other teams. Their money has to be shipped out to make any of this work, and I think it could. Pro Bolt says Tage better than Quinn. For this team, I would much rather have Tage Thompson. Obviously, I've talked about this, or a guy like Brady Tkachuk, et cetera, et cetera. And that's no shade to Quinn Hughes. He's obviously an unbelievable player, but as of right now, we need more help up front than defense. I 100% agree. In an ideal world, I would love to see Tage Thompson, but it's not going to happen. I don't think Buffalo is going to trade him, and the Devils are pretty much set on bringing in Quinn Hughes, and here we are. We have the inside track. Hopefully they make it happen sooner than later. Mark, Gritz is underutilized. Need to put him in spots to succeed. Otherwise, he's going to go back to Russia. That would be awful. I'd like to see him on power play one. Think they could benefit from it. I mean, listen, it's a crowded power play kind of situation. We have a lot of lethal weapons. I think he's gotten some looks on power play too, for sure. At this point, I think it's hard to guarantee him a power play one spot. I would definitely give him some looks here and there, probably on the strength of his just beautiful shot. And I do like his game. He is underrated, kind of tough on pucks and battling and stuff. But I think you'll see him get some power play time here and there. And I think he's just continuing to kind of learn the game as he goes on. But I don't think he's going to go back to Russia. I think he's enjoying his time here. And I think he's going to finish with, I don't know what he finishes with, probably close to 40 points. He'll get a decent contract, and I think all is well in the world. Gleason, y'all need to stop taking the preseason as a prediction of how good a player will be or a line will be. Glendening people thought was better than he was from preseason. It's a small sample size. I mean, but what are you even talking about? No one's saying who said anything about preseason. Just because I said Cotter and Grits. I mean, obviously it's not the end all be all, but it's preseason is more than nothing. It's something to gauge. Brandon joined late. Apologies if it was covered. Might have missed it, but doesn't Quinn help solve the depth scoring? Consider his production and time on ice of 25 to 28 a game. He's out with those guys. Yeah. It was covered, but basically, yes, the guy is such an offensive threat that he should help everything. He should help the offense generate more. He should keep the pressure off the defense because we're now living in the ozone way more. Is he going to fix all of the problems at once? No, but does he make this team a good chunk better immediately? I believe yes. Mark, Devils need to channel their inner Vegas trading mindset. I completely agree. Vegas trying to win every year. They're rumored and linked to almost every guy on the block. It's like, oh, Vegas is interested. Vegas is trading picks like nothing. They're in perpetual win now mode, and you got to love it. Anson, does Luke move to power play too if we get Quinn? 100%. And you might see some configurations where they're all out there, 2 out of the 3, or maybe they do one unit where there's 2 of the brothers and then the other unit has one of them. I mean, to have a Hughes out on the ice for a power play, for the entire power play is a pretty nice luxury to have. Sweet BJJ, that makes sense. Dougie has some value. He should maybe making slightly less than his cap, but he could be an asset to other teams. Yeah, someone will take him. Everyone who plays with Glendening, their numbers tank. 0 offense. Completely agree. I mean, listen, he's filled in pretty nicely considering that he's not like a liability. And I think at this point, we want to see more than that. But, came in here and won a spot off a PTO because of Lamico's injury. They originally had Lamico penciled in for that 4C spot. And then Glendening got a deal because Lamico was injured. Mark, Bratt is the odd man out, does similar things to Jack and is a perimeter player. Although it would hurt, we could benefit from it in the long run. Yeah, it sucks. Sometimes you got to make those tough deals. I certainly would have my crying moment saying goodbye to the Bratter. Let's see, did this update again? I can't tell if this changed. Let me see. I think this updated. And a look at the standings. The Devils in 5th place in the wild card. Oh, boy. It stings. It really, really stings. 33 points in 29 games played. Wow. I'll be right back. I just got to go to the bathroom real quick. Then we'll start winding it down. Shout out to everybody for coming out on a non-game night for a little therapy and just kind of vent session and whatever else you want to call this. Back in 2 minutes. We'll start winding it down. I'm in no hurry to leave, but we'll start winding it down. Thoughts, comments, questions, suggestions. They've been kind of light on the suggestions. I'm curious to see if you guys have any worthwhile suggestions. Let me just mark my spot here. Back in 2 minutes. Look at those standings. I'm nervous about this game against Ottawa. It's another big test on the road. If they lose another one, oh my God. I mean, I don't even know how much louder the chatter could get, but it's going to be pressure's on now. Pressure is on now. Lamico, another genius move. Legit don't have one AHL center come up. Yeah, the center depth is scary. Scary. Even Keefe said Jack and Bratt are too similar as players sometimes. Mark, Ace, did you see Tage Thompson absolutely trucked DeBrincat in OT to set up a game-winning goal tonight? No. I'll watch on the fly after this. G-Flow, did you see the interview with Lou? I did not. I saw someone post this. I'm going to watch that later, too, with Lou on the SDPN YouTube channel. Towards the end, they asked him what the secret to make a winning team, and Lou had a great answer Fitz should take to heart. I look forward to seeing that. Mark, give me your realistic return for Quinn. I think it takes at least 3 pieces, maybe 4, depending on what it is. I mean, for me, I would try to only trade futures. I don't think they accept that. I don't think they accept that at all. So it's tough. I would love to be in a world of like a first. I would try to give them all futures, but they're not going to take it. And so I do think Nemitz is going to be the odd guy out, and it's going to kill me. But it's like, what choice do you have, I feel like? And a lot of people will argue against it, but you got to win now. I would say like Nemitz a first, another prospect in a second, maybe. Like, I don't know. Who knows? It could end up being way less than we think, but I do think it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark because other teams are going to put offers in. You're talking about a top 10 player in the league. Subfill, part of extending Luke was for that deal was to entice Quinn to come here. If Devils bring in Quinn, he doesn't want to stay. Trade Luke and Jack, get a major haul, and let those teams deal with them. That's not going to happen. He's going to come here and he's going to sign a long-term deal. That's the highly favored outcome here, or what's most likely to happen. Jason, no, the fact we lost to a Boston team without Pasta and Coyle tells you everything you need to know. It is depressing. Jason, no, the bottom 6 is unplayable, and Fitz is sitting home right now still wondering what depth scoring is and what the hell is this Swiss jackknife. Oh, boy. Subfail, Jack's a great player, but this is how they play when he inevitably misses 20-plus games. Trade him and get more reliable players. Again, for the 9 millionth time, they're actively trying to get the third Hughes here. Talking about trading a Hughes is just a waste of words and breath. My Bop 36, when's the last time the Devils had a breakout offensive player the way the Devils or the way the Bruins do with Geeky? Probably never. I'd probably say never. Ottawa is going to be tricky. Jay Snow, does Keefe's offensive system seem like it's not a good fit? I'm not saying he's not a good coach or anything. He should have the Devils playing a more forechecking north-south game. They're just moving the puck sloppy and slow. At some point, you have to put a lot of this on the players. Like, Keefe has shown some frustration in post games where he's like, yeah, we've talked about X, Y, and Z, and they're not doing it. Like, with a team with so many injuries, you can't even healthy scratch guys to send a message. And furthermore, with the way some of these modern day athletes are coddled, I don't even know that if we did have proper depth at some of these positions that we could afford to healthy scratch a guy, I don't even know if we would do it. That's kind of the world of, the modern athletes right now. It's a little bit different. You see guys healthy scratching other teams here and there. But, like, when's the last time the Devils had, like, a, whoa, healthy scratch? Like, I couldn't even tell you the last time it happened. I can't even remember. Jason says, I really don't want the move to be Quinn. I just see it being another disaster. I don't think it could be a disaster, but I could see the concern. Mark, I think teams are holding off on giving a big offer to Quinn because they know he's going to leave at the end of his deal, or at least they're going to want to know before they trade for him. Boston got goals from 3 of their lines. When's the last time that happened for NJ? Probably at some point when we were winning games. I think, it's obviously not an everyday occurrence, but it has happened. Jersey says Jack's not going anywhere exactly. Subfail, would you possibly be interested in trading Bratt for someone like Tage? I think it's a fairly even 1-for-1 trade. 100%. 100%. Just because that, again, it's a shakeup and it brings in a guy that brings an element we don't have enough of, and that's like big power, a little bit of that scritty. Tage is a dog. I would love him. However, I will say I don't think Buffalo remotely considers that deal. You'd have to add, I believe, but I would explore it. If he was available, I would be super all in on that move. If they ring the alarm and say Tage is on his way out, what's your best offer? I'm definitely sending a healthy offer, because a guy like him, I think, is exactly what this team is missing up front. Jason, they're still trying to play this rush game and it's not working. Yeah, one trick pony. The plan B, plan C does not really work for them. And when you shut down the speedy rush game, the Devils are unfortunately a very easy team to beat for the teams that know what they're doing and how to implement those systems. Mechanicsville, Allmark shutout incoming Tuesday. Oh, God, I hope not. I'm doing better, but not by much. Jason, getting Quinn will just make us a little better, but never win a cup with him. I can't agree with that either. But it's not going to be just him. Do I think just Quinn Hughes wins us a cup? No. No, I don't. But if you get a guy like O'Reilly or some other decent third-line center, we get healthy, some of these guys step up, is it possible? Yes. Do I think Quinn alone is winning us a cup? No, I absolutely agree. He's not. But with this team at near full health and another piece or two added, I think it is possible. Call me crazy, but I got to believe. Husky, I think our last healthy scratch player was Holtz. Yeah, I'm not calling that. That doesn't fulfill the criteria of what I was saying, though, because he was kind of one of those fringe guys, a young guy. Like, when was the last time we scratched like an everyday NHL regular, like someone like a Dougie or a Palat? Like, when was the last time someone like that was scratched? It hasn't happened in forever. Mechanicsville, Bratt trade for Adam Lowry, Marcus Foligno, Boone Jenner type would be our Huberdeau for Tkachuk deal. Yeah, but Tkachuk, that was a big one, man. A culture shifting, just absolute monumental swing in franchise history, literally franchise history for the Panthers. That deal will go down in history. A ballsy move that really set the Panthers up for what they're in the middle of now. 3 cup finals trips in a row. Obviously they're in a down year right now with the injuries. They're struggling. Still a lot of season to go, but that move really, 3 cup finals appearances and back-to-back cup champs. My God, Jason Tage is a game changer. I completely agree. If we get Quinn, that's the only move. I tend to agree with you. It shouldn't have to be, and there still would be ways to make another move, but I do have the fear that if they did get Quinn, like, everyone's going to sit around like admiring it forever and there won't be another deal, which is why I'm even more interested in, if the Quinn deal is going to happen, find a way to get Sherwood in there too. So at least we get another player that could help and not relying on a separate deal. Justin, glad to see you're not in the loony bin yet. Not yet. Jason, there's no way we had another player. Mechanicsville, Bratt for Tuck, hockey trade, even if we have to sweeten a little. Again, I like Tuck, like his game, think he'd be a great fit on this team. My issue with that is he's going to want a ton of money, and it just doesn't make sense for me. If you're going to make a big move like that, and I love Tuck, but supposedly he wants like $12 million. On the flip side, Tage Thompson signed, I think, for like 5 or 6 more years at like $7.8 million. Again, I think it would take a lot more to get Tage Thompson, but a guy with term with a team-friendly contract in place is much more appealing to me than getting a guy like Tuck that you're then going to have to pay an absolute fortune to. Jason, no, I love the Canucks. They make me miss Scott Stevens. Like we used to have the biggest dogs of them all. Yeah, what a difference a couple decades makes in terms of the way the game is played and the guys that play it. Right? Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore, and that's why I love the Tkachuk brothers. They're absolute throwbacks. Their father was an animal, Keith Tkachuk. Loved him as a kid. Shout out to the 1996 World Cup champion Team USA. What a squad that was. But the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He was a dog and his kids are dogs. And if you haven't seen their podcast, check it out. Wingmen podcast. Absolutely love it. Matthew and Brady. Anson Meadows, I'm still in imagination land. Trade for Brady. I can't allow myself to get caught up in this anymore. I've let this go a long time ago. It was a big dream of mine, and I did think it was somewhat realistic at the time I first started saying it, which was, I think, a couple years ago. I do think that ship has sailed. But again, just like with some of these other guys I talked about, if there's ever a time where he is being remotely shopped, the Devils should do everything in their power to get him, because I do believe he could be a linchpin to a turnaround similar to the way his brother was in Florida. Now, obviously, you can't ever predict a guy is going to go to a team and then bring you to 3 Cup finals in a row. Like, that's the most extreme example of success of all time. But I do think he would be a very positive addition to the Devils and really be part of a culture change and an on-ice identity shift that's much needed and long overdue at this point. Mark, it's been a long time since we healthy scratched the vet, maybe 10-plus years. I guess no one wants to hurt these vets' feelings. I think that's part of it. Yeah, I can't remember the last one. I'm trying to think here. Mechanicsville, a team built around the Hughes will never win a cup. Will probably win you the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, but will never put you in the top 8 category. You have to have grit to be a Final Four. But why can't you have the Hughes and those pieces? That's the thing. I believe the Hughes can be part of a cup-winning team if the right complementary players are around them. So why are we just saying they can never win a cup? I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Jay Snow, when I was younger, but it just seems like those guys we used to have were men compared to these guys we have today. Completely correct. Completely correct. The guys that used to play the whole leagues and the Bobby Holeeks and the Randy McKays and all these guys, they're an endangered species now. The league has changed. The players that play it have changed, and it is a different world. These guys are way different. Mark, anyone else getting Nets vibes with them getting Durant, Irving, Harden, Devils getting Quinn, Jack, Luke, getting everyone to keep everyone happy and then not get the job done would be a nightmare. I mean, I could see somewhat how it's analogous, but I'd like to think with the right guys around them, they could all be a big part of a cup-winning team. Mechanicsville, Jay Snow, all we had was dogs in the glory days. We got rid of our Jack Hughes, Mogilny to have a united team of dogs. Jay Snow, that's what made me think of Stevens watching the Canucks podcast. I love how they just don't take crap from no one, but love Canucks. They don't hit like Scotty did. Well, no one's going to hit like Scotty did. Yeah, the past is all we have. Anson, Brady, Jack, and Quinn combo. Sheesh. That'd be nice. Mark, I remember Adam Larson used to get scratched a lot by, I think, DeBoer. Healthy scratching the young guys was one of the issues back then. Yeah, I'm talking about like an everyday NHL regular, though. Bungie, all muscle and no brain won't win us a cup either. Well, no one's saying that, Bungie. We're talking about the perfect balance. A nice balance of all of it. Veterans, younger guys, guys in their prime. You have the elite playmakers, the finesse guys. You got the bangers. You got the guys that could do a little bit of everything. You do need a perfect blend and perfect balance up and down your lineup to win a Stanley Cup and go far in the playoffs. Because as you all know, if you've watched, the playoffs are war. And that's never going to change. You need dogs. They're going to get down and dirty in the playoff war. And right now, I don't think we have enough of them. I'd like to see a couple more added. We need beef. Completely agree. Jason and I certainly do agree. We must somehow call for help, especially to rebuild our defense depth. And yeah, Bobby Holeek and Randy McKay, Bobby Carpenter, and Stefan Richer. Wow, these are some throwback names. Some throwback names. Anyone have anything else in closing? It's almost that time. I was on here for a while. I just want this team to win a game. And it starts Tuesday in Ottawa. Shh. Wow. The Sens need that bad too. I mean, they're in the basement. I mean, how great it would be, though, if we could get healthy. If we could get healthy and the Senators do just start tanking, and then they're just like, screw it, Brady asks to be out and then names the Devils as a place he would like to go. I would love it. It is pipe dreaming stuff, though. But let me just pipe dream for a minute. Let me just pipe dream, because that's all we have right now is pipe dreams. Mark, easier said than done, but all these guys need to commit to playing the 200-foot game and play as a team. Will McLeod ever come back to the NHL? I'm saying no. McEwen, we have no idea. They when he got hurt, they basically made it seem like it was long, and there was never any update on it. I think he's a great fourth liner. I really liked what he brought in the few games we saw from him, and it's unfortunate that he suffered 2 different injuries now. I mean, talk about bad luck. Yeah, 6'4", 236, and can skate. Making league minimum, I believe, at 775. He only played 3 games. Unbelievable. I really do like him on our fourth line. Mark, good night, Ace. Hopefully we're going to wake up to a trade. I don't know if it's going to happen tomorrow, but this week would be nice. Later, selected boy. Philip, morning. Mechanicsville, Jay Snow. We had guys that were dogs and could score points like Lemieux, Langenbrunner, Arnott. Yeah, these are just the legends of yesteryear. Yeah, who are the modern-day equivalents? Get me those guys. And I said this recently, or not recently, a couple months ago. I said a guy like Jamie Langenbrunner would be like one of our toughest forwards on today's roster. With no shade to Jamie Langenbrunner, he was a tough guy, but you don't want him to be your tough, like one of your toughest guys. But on this roster, he would be, which is crazy to think about. Anything else here? Oh, it's late. Oh, it's late. All right, that's it, folks. We're all hoping for the best. Hopefully something happens. The team needs help. Someone throw us a life vest. Someone throw us one of the little flotation devices. Slowly drowning, and we need help, and we need it quick. The standings are insane. The slide could be bad, and we may be here I can't even let my brain get to there. We need to just turn this thing around, bring in some help, and just go on rip off a few games and get us back into the thick of it, and hopefully they figure out a way to reattach the finger in a quicker way, maybe give him a special glove of some kind, and expedite the Jack Hughes return post-Chicago cut, and the same with Pesce, and then bring in some reinforcements and hope the boys go on a tear. That's it. It's late. Working on a lot of stuff, as always. Appreciate the support. Hit the thumbs up on your way out. And that's it, folks. And that is it. Thank you all for watching. I love you all. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz. Until next time, friends, let's go Devils.